parts of the Kenya-Ethiopia border.
There's a perspective that Mandera is not a secure place. I would tell you to please come over to Mandera. It is very peaceful. We are in between Ethiopia and Somali, and we are enjoying very cordial relationship. Nothing of what you hear, nothing of those perspectives. It is a peaceful place where I would encourage people to come invest, come and stay, come and visit.
This valley is relatively wide with gently sloping sides of exposed bedrock. This is a key tourist site. The unifying factor for communities both from Kenya and Ethiopia is their way of life. On offer here is fishing and boating activities that are ideal for tourists who would want to visit sites and hear sounds from both Kenya and Ethiopia. This, coupled with budding activities, complement cultural and conference tourism.
Mara ya kwanza nikija Mandera nilikuwa na mtazamo tofauti sana na vile nilivyopata. Nikauliza, but nikaona hakuna watu wanaishi tu, maisha ni sawa. Watu wanaendelea na mienendo zao tu kawaida kama kwingineko kote Kenya. Watu pia ni wa friendly. Nilitembea kwenye town. Nilipenda the fact that kwamba kwanza fruits ambazo ni hizi watermelons ziko kwa wingi. Kwanza nilikuwa nafikiria maybe hata mahali pa kukaa, pa kulala ni si ati ni mahali pazuri. But nilipata kwanza kuna hoteli ambayo inafikia standards ambazo ukienda kama ni Mombasa ama uende Kisumu, Eldoret, zinafikia standards kama hizo. Chakula nilipenda mbuzi, wako na mbuzi boil mzuri sana. Pia ngamia, na nikaweza pia kula kuna kuku. Samaki pia nilirealize wanapatikana huko.
Yes, Mandera is a tourist destination worth consideration for your vacation, whether for family, corporate bonding sessions, or just with friends.
I do invite tourists, both local and international, to do visit Mandera County. It is a peaceful place with friendly people. And for those wishing to enjoy a warm climate, Mandera is the place to be, which is a home away from home. Friendly staff, green gardens. You come here and relax, hold your events, and even for healing purposes.
If you love going off to the unknown to experience something new, then Mandera is the place to be. Adventurous it is, and you will definitely have a magical story to tell. Evolutionists believe long time ago, as a result of natural selection, this is all nature left, the long-necked giraffe species towering high above the rest. In Kenya, there are 3 species of giraffes: the reticulated, Maasai, and the Rothschild. Rothschild giraffe, also known as the Baringo giraffe, is one of the distinct and endangered subspecies in the world. Degradation, poaching, and community conflicts now threaten the survival of this species. Old tales say the giraffes were trapped in the 19,000-acre island following the swelling of Lake Baringo in 2010. Unknown to them, the bulging lake silently swallowed raised hilly spot, creating the island, and henceforth Longicharo Island became new home for remaining survivors. A safe haven, perhaps.
Hii giraffe ilikuwa nani? Sasa trip ya kwanza tukaleta giraffe wanne. Na hii boat ni kubwa sana, inafuruzwa na boat ngapi? Hii motorboat hii yenye iko na engine. Inafuruzwa na boat mbili. Tukaileta mpaka huko chini, kuna bomo kubwa tulikuwa tumetengeneza hapo chini. Alafu tukashikisha hapo, tukarudi tena trip ya pili.
Most communities in Baringo have embraced conservation. They both conserve the environment and also conserve the animals within their area. It has been documented that 65% of the animals are not in their parks. They actually live with us as the human beings. So whatever we do, we appreciate them and be able to conserve them and have them with us.
To locals, the island is commonly referred to as the Ruko Conservancy. The Rothschild giraffe is easily distinguishable from other subspecies. The most obvious sign is in the coloring of the coat. The lines are much creamier between their patches, and the patches have more jagged edges. Its legs appear to be wearing cream-colored socks. Reports indicate that fewer than 600 Rothschild giraffes exist in Kenya. This is 40% of the global population, while neighboring Uganda is home to the remaining 60%.
Most tourists who visit there go and have the geisha, relax there and watch the geisha, and also sunbath there, so that geisha moves towards them and they feel so good, because at times there is a belief that it is a medicinal way of getting so many things out of the diseases out of your body.
Morning and welcome to Newscheck. Today being the 14th day of April 2020. It's exactly 1 month and 1 day since Kenya reported its first corona virus case right here in Nairobi. And since then, we have jumped to over 200. Over 114,000 people are already dead. And in Kenya, actually all the steps and all mitigation is being carried out as we speak to make sure that no more transmission or mass transmission. Of course, Kenya will be rolling out the mass testing. We had a capacity of around 600 in a single day, but in the coming weeks, we will be having a mass testing all over Kenya, which will be giving out or checking out thousands of results in a day. My name is Ben Troy. We will be discussing more on the coronavirus, but today we will be discussing on the special medical allowances and perks for people who are on the front line of fighting the coronavirus. They are the first line of defense. We are talking about the medical workers. And earlier on last week, we will be getting deeper into that. Earlier on last week, do remember Dr. Alfred Mutua, the governor of Machakos County, did announce that he will be giving his health workers in Machakos County something small, actually, as a token of appreciation for the good work they are doing, putting their lives on the line, and of course caring for the coronavirus patients. That is the topic we'll be discussing today, and I'll be joined by a number of experts. But to begin us off, we will be talking to Dr. David Matsanga. But first things first, in our viewpoint question today, we ask, should the Salaries and Remuneration Commission okay the special medical allowances for health workers? Should SRC okay the special medical allowance for health workers? That will be our viewpoint question. Kindly at KBC Channel 1 or hit me up at my Twitter at Ben Troy Njue, and the hashtag to use is Newscheck. Well, we also have our reporters on the ground. There are various events happening or occurring today, and my colleagues are on the ground. Let's first of all have a look at some of the issues or some of the stories they will be following up for us today in the reporter's diary. Reporter's diary, and I'm quite sure the Landlords and Tenant Association directive on rent and eviction is something that most Kenyans, and especially those living in towns, will be keeping a close eye on. We will be bringing you the latest report as soon as that presser begins. But right now, I'm joined by Dr. David Matsanga, who is the chairman of Pan-African Forum, and of course he is a political and governance expert. Daktari, if you can hear me, good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to see you, Daktari.
Thank you very much. I can't see you though, but I am here.
Are you keeping safe?
I'm not seeing you at all.
Yes. Are you by any chance keeping safe and following the directives of the government?
Yes, I can't see you.
Yes.
Because I am following the government direct. Oh, thank you very much. I can see.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I am well and following the government instructions. You see, I've carried my mask.
Yes.
And I have got my sanitizer here.
Yes.
Which I use all the time from my command center, wherever I am.
Yes, and it's good to see you also indoors, because on a normal day we'll be having you here in studio.
Well, I am indoors and not on indoors, but in a command center. In a bunker.
Yes.
So thank you very much.
Welcome, Daktari.
I just want to thank you, Kenyans. I want to thank everybody in the world, especially the government of the Republic of Kenya, President Uhuru Kenyatta, Minister Mutahi Kagwe, for the tenacity and the steadfastness they have handled this COVID-19 since it began. And then I want to thank Kenyans for accepting, one, the curfew, two, the restrictions.
Yes.
Most of them are beginning, the message is beginning to say.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Good. Perhaps we can look at the topic of discussion today. The Salaries and Remuneration Commission are not comfortable with county governments giving some special allowances to our health workers. What is your take on that?
First of all, at times of this nature, money comes last.
Yes.
Patriotism. The only thing that will save us is patriotism. As a man who has seen, I have lived on this planet 60 years over, and I have seen quite a lot of things, but I've never seen this. I've gone through a lot. But what I've done in my life is not to put money first. Yes, the nurses who are on at the front line,
yes,
we respect them, we give them encouragement, we give them prayers. Yes, we give them all the sorts of support, both materially, if it is possible, even money, if it's possible. But as we arrange that money, or as the governments arrange that money, let the people not bring in this element of money at this hour. Because we might not have this money tomorrow if we don't save human beings.
So should the nurses be given the special allowance?
Wait first. Let's save the human beings first.
Okay. And you have talked about how Kenyans are behaving following the government's directives. Of course, we have some elements who actually have even been arrested for flouting that. What more should the Kenya government do to cushion Kenyans at this time, Daktari?
There are several things that they can do.
Yes.
And since the subject is on money and the nurses and allowance, I think let's narrow it down there.
Yes.
Yes, there is an understanding that the frontline workers need some form of a great thanks, need some form of protection. The kits, the materials, the ventilators, the uniforms, the masks, all these things are needed. Believe me or not, viewers of KBC, the world, even the world itself, the first world, which is called America, that has gone to the moon, masks are lacking, ventilators are lacking. The world that has gone to the moon, we have not gone to the moon in Africa, not in my Uganda, not in Kenya, not anywhere. We have not tried even to go halfway. But the world that Britain, America, all these European countries that send arms to fight people,
yes,
they are lacking these essential commodities. The health workers in America are even making the worst noise than the health workers in Africa. So what I want to encourage the younger generation that is on the front line, not because they should do it, but they have to do it to save humanity. The allowances that they are bargaining for, we should be, and I'll call upon the minister to look into the CS4 headaches who is died so far. Do you know that this man came in 4 weeks and is drinking the thing from the hot pipe? He has done it. He's tried it. He has actually exhibited the leadership qualities that Martin Luther said, there comes a time like this when leaders are seen by action, not by just mere rhetoric and posturing that we see in some of the leaders. So I call upon the nurses, the health workers, the doctors on the front line, that please, as much as this allowance thing is real, you need it. You also have families that you have left. You have needs. This is being looked after at by the ministry. And don't listen to this notion. And let me tell the Kenyans, I am always a man who speaks my mind. And what I have spoken has never hurt Kenya at all in life. I always tell the truth. This notion of people bringing in money, imaginary money. There are people who are feeding on Twitter with wrong information on Twitter. Some countries in Africa have imposed 20 years, 20 good years, for anybody who spreads wrong information. In Zimbabwe, if you write fake information, you will be jailed for 20 years. Because you are killing more lives than coronavirus. There are people who are talking of millions of billions of billions of killing. My friends, I don't want to mention so that your television is important, but they know themselves what they are doing on Twitter. Why do you go on a Twitter? A honorable man, grown up, we are fighting the disease. You are on Twitter inciting Kenyans, poisoning Kenyans, that there is money here, there is money there, there is money lost there. That type of culture, I saw it in 2009 when I was defending the Ocampo 6. The same people were writing these things on Twitter and on Facebook. Please, and the newspapers, don't do that. Let's help the nurses where possible, give them, keep their allowances, arrange their allowances. They should come. They need it. But at this time now, the focus should be to save human beings. Viewers, there is one route. And that one route is you either save or we perish.
Indeed.
Because even if they give you that money today,
yes,
if you have not saved the human beings, all of us will perish. So let's put patriotism first.
Okay. Thank you.
Where we
yes.
on COVID-19,
yes.
What can we do?
Yes.
The union workers should be. I saw Mr. Panyako, my friend, the other week he said something very, very good. Mr. Panyako said, yes, we are not being treated properly. But at this moment, we need to go and save Kenyans. And another doctor who is the Secretary General, Mr. Kaguru or something like that, my great friend, Secretary General of KPD, the Doctors Union, said very good words. That is the spirit of the younger generation that we are leaving behind. Yes. Some of us are going in the sunset. Some are gone. But we want to leave a generation that can help the government, help President Uhuru Kenyatta, help Mutahi Kagwe. Listen to that man. Listen to him. Because if you don't listen, countries that did not listen, you can see the havoc we have. If it is curfew, stay inside. Don't break the curfew and make your estate a drinking spree estate.
Yes.
Please,
yes.
Buy it and drink in your house.
Yes.
That is all.
Daktari.
What we shall do, nobody stops you from drinking. After all, Jesus changed water to wine.
Yes.
He was religious,
yes.
And he has resurrected. So let's be honest. Drink from your house responsibly, but don't crowd and social interact. Yes. Social distance. Wash your hands. Stay away where possible. In Uganda, there are no cars. Yes. There are no cars in Uganda.
Okay.
There are no cars.
Daktari.
There are no cars on the road. Only government cars. So don't push the government to a level where tomorrow they will say, no, we have seen this is going, and because the curfew is being violated, restrictions are being violated, my brother, they could easily clamp us even more and more, because we don't know when this COVID-19 will end.
Yes, Doctor, you have mentioned the Ministry of Health and especially Minister Mutahi Kagwe, who has been touted and called the sharpest barb on the wire when it comes to issues corona. What is your comment on how the Ministry of Health has been handling this situation?
Fantastic. This man came in the job 4 weeks ago. And I want to praise President Uhuru Kenyatta for having seen a good eye and appointed this man. Honestly, Cecily Kariuki is my friend, but she could not have managed this. I'm being honest, and I'm always honest, man. If you don't like me, go ahead. I am not bothered, but I tell the truth. The president did a right choice, and the right choice is delivering fruits. There are few poisonous tongues in Kenya. You have seen them on Twitter.
Yes.
You have seen them twisting facts.
Yes.
If the World Bank gives you money today, that money does not come on your account tomorrow.
Yes.
Let's speak the truth. Let's speak the truth. If some of these people have gone to school, but they act like intellectual dwarfs. If the World Bank gives you money today, and they say they have given Kenya $200 million, that money takes a process to arrive in the treasury.
Yes.
So don't run and say Kenya has got 22 billion. Where is it? Do you work in the treasury? Where is it? Don't bring poison to the people. People are already traumatized. People are traumatized. We're traumatized all over. Some of us are speaking on this television. My family, one of my people in my family, my daughter is just recovering now. My daughter number 6 is recovering. Nora Matanga is recovering in London. I have been treating her on video from where I am. Have you seen how painful it is?
It is. It is.
Look at how painful it is. Not because you are the only people affected. All of us are affected. My daughter is being treated on video by me. Drink this, go and prepare this. So we are traumatized. When you see intellectuals who are supposed to guide the families, guide the millions of Kenyans, tell the truth,
Yes.
go to Twitter to spread gossip.
Yes.
If IMF removes your loan, it doesn't remove it immediately.
Yes.
It comes by process, 20 days, 30 days. We are only 1 day up or 2 days after the first, Kenya slumped all these conditions.
Yes.
Kagwe has done his job. Kagwe is on the job. Kagwe is on the pulse. Kagwe, you should not be discouraged. Don't listen to these prophets of doom who have money, but they have not even contributed 1K.
Yes.
They have not even contributed 1K. They stay in palatial homes in Rwanda and the Karen. And then they keep on writing on Twitter to impress, to get people likes.
Yeah.
They
Yes.
are not living like the people in Gorokocho or Magari.
Yes.
Don't. Listen to the minister guideline.
Yes.
Please, Kenyans, listen to the minister's guideline.
Yeah.
We shall be safe.
Yes, and Daktari, before I let you go, one more question. How have you seen the leaders here in Kenya handling the situation? We've seen them, most of them are very, very quiet.
Some of them have gone underwater. Don't only say quiet. Underwater. Chini ya maji. They have gone. They have left Uhuru Kenyatta, Kagwe, and a few people to work. You can see how bad it is.
Yes.
That the people who have been shouting most have disappeared from the scene. I told you, Kenyans, seek what is in Sicily. Forget what is in Rome. What is in Rome by Nicolai Machiavelli, you might not see it. But make sure that you defend Sicily. The city of Florence by Nicolai Machiavelli. Those who have read the book, The Prince, will understand what I'm saying. So there are people who have been seeking Rome. They want to talk about 2022, but now they have disappeared. They are not in active collective responsibility. Back in my country, no opposition leader has opposed Museveni at this hour. All of them have taken one route: save the people first.
Yes.
The priority at the moment, please, Kenyans, you have seen how disorganized the leadership of America was, that over 23,000 people are gone. We don't know how many. So when this thing arrives here, Africans, they learn to listen to our leaders, listen to Mutahi Kagwe, listen to his guidelines.
Yes.
God says he helps those who help themselves.
Okay.
If you don't help yourself,
Yes.
and you expect them to come and help you,
Yes.
oh, hallelujah, shall all meet where we are. This thing is not, we don't know the timetable.
Okay. Thank
Let's
you.
help the nurses.
Yes.
Let's give them transport.
Yes.
Those who have too many cars, give the government the hospitals cars. There are people who have 10 cars in their compound.
Yes.
Give 1 car, 2 cars to the nurses to come to work.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's have that spirit of volunteer.
Okay.
Volunteer.
Yes.
Patriotism.
Yes.
Tukue na utu. Tukue na utu jameni wa Kenya.
Okay.
Tukue na utu.
Okay.
Hii kitu hapana mzuri. This thing is very dangerous.
Yes.
Tukue na utu.
Daktari.
You are keeping 10 cars in the compound, John.
Yes.
My brother, you keep 10 cars in the compound, and the nurse is walking to the hospital to go and look after COVID-1. Surrender some of these cars to the poor.
Okay.
One of them, so that they carry the people. You
All right.
might not have sent the money, but you can give it cars.
Thank you.
So that the transport and the driver can be carrying these people to work and help others.
Thank you.
That is the way we
go.
can conquer this monster called COVID-19.
Thank you so much, Doctor. It's always a pleasure having you. Hope you're going to be keeping safe. And right now, we are heading to Athi River, where LCS Mutahi Kagwe towards an EPZ making PPEs and, of course, masks.
24 hours, we have tested 674 samples. Out of these samples, 11 have tested positive for coronavirus disease. And so we have now passed the 200 mark.
KBC.
Our figure stands at 208 persons tested positive in our country. All the 11 are Kenyans. 4 have a history of travel from the United Arab Emirates. 6 are male, while 5 are female, aged between 1 year and 42 years. I therefore want our people to be mentally prepared and to accept that COVID-19 victim bodies shall be disposed in a manner that protects the living from infections and in accordance with the Ministry of Health burial protocols.
Apologies for that. Of course, we will be getting to that story much later. That is the latest we have in Kenya. Remember, there are daily briefings by the CS or the CAS on the coronavirus. And before I welcome my guest on set, in case you're joining us now, this is Newscheck. I'm Ben Troenjue. Lucy Maura is our sign language interpreter. And today we are looking at special allowances or packs for our first line of defense, the health workers, when it comes to the coronavirus pandemic. I will be joined by the Kenya National Union of Nurses, Secretary General Seth Panyako. And before we do that, let's first have a fact file on this COVID-19 monster.
Smokers are likely to be more vulnerable to COVID-19 as the act of smoking means that fingers and possibly contaminated cigarettes are in contact with the lips, which increases the possibility of transmission of virus from hand to mouth. Smokers may also already have lung disease or reduced lung capacity, which would greatly increase the risk of serious illness. Smoking products such as water pipes often involve the sharing of mouthpieces and hoses, which could facilitate the transmission of COVID-19 in communal and social settings. Conditions that increase oxygen needs or reduce the ability of the body to use it properly will put patients at higher risk of serious lung conditions such as pneumonia. You can reach the Ministry of Health through emergency toll-free line 0800 721316 or through 0729471414 and 0732353535. For more information, you can get more information on COVID-19 by calling 719 or dialing *719# on your phone.
Welcome back. Some facts and files for all the things that you should be knowing about the coronavirus. Remember, I always say keep clean, keep the distance, keep safe, and of course keep the faith that we will trounce this. And joining me now on set, on my left is Seth Panyako, who is the Secretary General of the Kenya National Union of Nurses. You are not, karibu sana, Seth, you are not a strange face to Kenyans, and especially at these moments.
Yes.
First things first, according to you, you represent a large number of medical personnel who are our first line of defense. According to you, how has the government been handling the situation?
I think in terms of information delivery, you know, information is extremely important in a situation like this. The government has disseminated information to the public in the clear, precise, and consistent manner. That one is acknowledged and is appreciated. In terms of the members or the public being aware of what they're supposed to do to protect themselves and protect others and their families and from getting infection, I believe the government has done a commendable job in terms of passing across that information. It has been concise, has been precise, and it has been clear, and it is delivered consistently. But in terms of health workers, I have a feeling that the government has not done much to protect health workers, because as we are talking today, in terms of personal protective equipment, we are still where we started from. There is no personal protective equipment, especially in county governments where the infections has not yet been reported. Counties that have infections reported like Kwale, Kilifi, Mombasa, and Nairobi are doing much better because they have personal protective equipment. Only that it is not adequate in case where we go into full-blown infections. We are not in a crisis yet. Yes. But if we reach crisis levels, I don't think at the moment Kenya can be able to handle that. But we also appreciate the role that is being played by different arms of the government in terms of Kimathi University, which started producing personal protective equipment. We have EBZ here. The minister has gone there to maybe to inspect the production of personal protective equipment. Yes. We have that factory in Kitui County Government, which has been producing personal protective equipment. We have Rivertex in Eldoret, and I've heard of latest that Rivertex is also producing in conjunction with Bungoma County Government. They are producing personal protective equipment. But the situation remains. None of these areas where personal protective equipment is being produced has reached the ground. We do not have them. Yesterday we were being told that Kenya Bureau of Standards had not approved the circulation of those locally produced personal protective equipment. I was wondering how KEBS can wait this long, because it's the responsibility of each and every arm of the government to play her role. If it was KEBS to give standards that are supposed to be made by the areas or institutions producing these PPEs, it should have done a long time ago. Yes. Not to wait, they have been produced, and then you say don't circulate. But I've heard them again say today in the newspaper that there are no specific standards which are supposed to be followed in protection of those personal protective equipment, apart from the having a layer in the middle, yes, which can protect the virus from going through, either coming from the person using the mask or from the person who's outside. Yes. I think Kenya Bureau of Standards has let down Kenyans, and that won't have to speak without fear of contradiction.
Yes.
Yeah.
And still on the quality, we've seen even a lot of tailors making those masks as we speak. What is your view on that? Because as you've said, KEBS needs to look at that, but you see the capacity of masks in Kenya, and now that it has been mandatory to some being in public, in vehicles, you have to be having a mask.
You know, Kenyans, we have very bad manners. And I'll say this without mincing my words. I am not known for mincing my words. Yes. It is so strange to be told that masks that started being produced last month have not entered into the public as well as healthcare workers, and we are being told that some personal protective equipment have come from overseas, which has taken maybe 1 month or maybe three to 4 weeks for those masks to come. If they're coming by air, maybe 2 or 3 days. Yes. But from the way they are explained, it looks like they don't come by air. But how comes we have our own locally produced personal protective equipment, 10,000 being held somewhere, masks 10,000 being held somewhere, somebody saying that KEBS has not allowed them to go in the market, and KEBS is saying we have no local standards. It means somebody somewhere is trying to ensure that importation of these personal protective equipment and masks come in so that they can get their kickbacks at the expense of Kenyans. I believe the masks which are being made locally by our tailors, we should not castigate them, but we should actually be keen on the standards and handling of those masks, because the next level of infection is going to be these masks. First, I have seen and heard how the common mwananchi, when you go to buy those masks from the vendors, you take, if it's not fitting you, return and you get another one until you get the one which is fitting you. Yes. That one alone is a serious source of infection, and that must be checked. Another area that must be checked is an area where you have used the mask. How do you dispose it? Where do you dispose it? If you are disposing it at home, how are you supposed to use it? It's supposed to be disinfected. This is a message that also the government has failed to come out very clearly and tell the public how they are supposed to dispose these masks. But in terms of quality, there should be no compromise about it. KEBS should have come out very clearly once Kenya started making these masks and given out the message clearly that we need a sieve in between. It should even give that sieve, how should it look like? If it's a piece of cloth, how is it supposed to look like? Where is it available? Where can these tailors get it from? But KEBS cannot sit on the fence and say we have no local standards. Then why do we have KEBS in the first place? Yes. Because if you don't have local standards, it means the masks which you have been using from outside the countries, nobody's checking the quality and standards. KEBS has really, if I was the CEO for KEBS, I would have resigned the moment that statement came out that we do not have standards on masks in Kenya. And we have been using masks all along for all these years in our hospitals. Does it mean what we have been importing from outside, KEBS does not have standards? It is so.
So you're saying Kenya Bureau of Standards is employing double standards when it comes to the standardization of masks?
Exactly. Unless Kenya Bureau of Standards are involved in corruption, they are getting kickbacks from what is being imported. But if they're not getting kickbacks, then they must tell Kenyans, the masks that we have been using in our hospitals, I'm a health worker, I'm a nurse, I have worked in theater, I have used surgical masks in the hospital. We have used them for all these years. Yes. We have used personal protective equipment, especially in theater, where we used gowns, sterilized gowns. Yes. If Kenya Bureau of Standards is telling us they don't have the standards for this personal protective equipment in our normal routine when we handle patients in Kenya, then Kenya Bureau of Standards must tell us what he's doing. So if it is true that they don't have standards, the CEO for Kenya Bureau of Standards must have resigned by now. Okay. But because Kenyans have bad manners, they cannot resign. He should be sacked.
In case you're joining us, this is Newscheck, and I'm hosting Kenya National Union of Nurses Secretary General, and as he has said, is that he's not mincing his words. This is a fight that we are all in. For now, we're just taking a breather, but let's divert our attention to Parliament. Remember, it's supposed to be reopening today, and as Dr. Matsanga has said, the leaders are not only quiet, Others have just gone under the water. Kabasa?
A very good morning to you, Ben Troy Njue. The month-long recess came to an end yesterday. This afternoon, members of Parliament, this include members of the National Assembly as well as the Senate, they are expected to hold their normal sittings this afternoon. Of course, this sitting comes against the backdrop of a couple of measures which have been put in place by the government to ensure that the country is in a position to stem the spread of COVID-19. Members of Parliament will be expected to debate and approve a raft of measures which were announced by the President, and these measures are meant to cushion Kenyans against the impact of COVID-19, financially speaking, and the Kenya's economy, which has been badly hit by this particular pandemic, will perhaps get some reprieve when Parliament do debate these particular measures, which will ensure that should the pandemic go on for a long time, then probably the government and Kenyans will be in a position to deal with it. A raft of measures have also been put in place behind me inside the Parliament chambers. We are going to see one of the leanest sittings of the National Assembly, with 53 members of Parliament getting the opportunity to have a seat or take their places in the chamber. Of course, the members' lounge has also been converted. This is in line with keeping with the social distancing. Only 53 members will have that opportunity of debating today, and some adjustments will be made here and there, but it is a unique situation which has called for unique measures which Kenyans have not seen before. The members of Parliament during that recess, they came under sharp scrutiny with Kenyans asking whether or not they are really pro-public in terms of ensuring that everything that they do is geared towards ensuring public safety. But we do expect this afternoon they might touch on that. Yesterday, if you can remember, there were headlines here and there talking about the fact that members of Parliament have not been able to do their job as far as legislation is concerned, as Kenya looks for that extra arsenal to fight this pandemic. The Senate has had an ad hoc committee which this afternoon is expected to hold a virtual meeting with the Cabinet Secretary for Health, Honorable Mutahi Kagwe, and that ad hoc committee has been finding ways of ensuring that the Senate works with the government every step of the way to ensure that the steps being taken are amplified so that Kenyans can be able to follow and at least to some extent adhere to the guidelines which have been set by the government. The Senate has already given 200 million shilling towards the efforts started by the government to fight COVID-19. We have seen a number of stakeholders also coming together under the leadership of the EABL, and so much has been donated and so much continues to be donated towards the fight against the coronavirus pandemic. Doctors have been urging the government to ensure the safety of medical workers through KMPDU. They have been pushing to ensure that those who are in the front line, the outliers, are sufficiently resourced so that they are safe from COVID-19. We have seen in the media a couple of medical workers being put in isolation, having come into contact with patients. Of course, the National Assembly and the Senate, the deliberations which will be taking place this afternoon will be important, and Kenyans will be following keenly to see what sort of deliberations are going to be taking place, and will Parliament be in a position to adopt the raft of measures, tax measures, which were announced by President Uhuru Kenyatta. That sitting of the National Assembly will be coming to you in the afternoon from 2:30 live on KBC Channel 1. My name is Edward Kabasa. I now hand you back to Broadcasting House with Ben Troinjue.
Thank you so much, Ed Kabasa, live from Parliament, where only 53 members will be sitting today in the afternoon. And of course, they have a full entry when it comes to issues concerning the coronavirus and some of the measures that the government has announced, which have to be ratified by Parliament. It's exactly 11 a.m. This is Newscheck. I'm hosting the Kenya National Union of Nurses, Secretary General Mr. Seth Panyako. And going back to our discussion, before we go to the special allowances and parks, there's a clip that my director can cue that clip of the push and show of coming in or playing out right now. The SRC talks about that is not constitutional, giving out parks and allowances by county government, and would amount to discrimination of other counties. But the Council of Governors have said this is something we should do. They are our first line of defense. Kindly, Mugo.
County Governor Dr. Alfred Mutua recently announced special allowances of between 5,000 and 20,000 shillings per month to healthcare workers in his county, whom he says are working under challenging conditions in the fight against coronavirus.
My government has decided to give them a special allowance because they are putting their lives in danger. They're under a lot of stress at this time of fighting coronavirus. The surveillance team members, the professionals, will be getting an extra 20,000 a month. The non-professionals will be getting an extra 10,000 shillings a month allowance. For the doctors in hospitals, the frontline doctors who are seeing patients coming in, some of them who may be positive with coronavirus, we are giving them 10,000 shilling extra a month, and the non-professional cadre are getting 5,000 shillings a month.
This move, however, seems not to have gone well with the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. Through a letter to the chair of the Council of Governors, Wycliffe Oparanya, SRC Chair Lynn Mengich noted that the introduction of those additional special allowances was done without seeking proper advisory from the Commission. SRC has termed the move as unlawful and wants the county governments to follow due process before effecting lattering wage structures.
So there are different organizations and government agencies who are reviewing that package of healthcare workers to determine its suitability in enabling them to be able to muster up enough courage and energy to be able to fight this battle. This is an issue that's being discussed at NERC. The NERC team, consisting of different cabinet secretaries and chaired by our cabinet secretary, will be able to give a way forward on this in the coming briefings.
Mengich saying award and payment of such allowances is likely to cause inequality in the remuneration across the health sector in the counties. And even as the national government is raising funds to facilitate the fight against the pandemic, the Commission is advising that in light of scarce resources, the available resources should be channeled towards protecting health workers by providing them with personal protective equipment.
Well, that is how this discussion actually started. Machakos County Governor talking about the nurses will be given an allowance, and that did not go well with the SRC, and that is what we are discussing. And coming back to that question, first of all, I do remember even the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers and Kenya National Union of Nurses, earlier on you had some press conference talking about the government should involve us more. So has the situation changed? Then, second question, what is your take on that?
First of all, the government has not yet involved stakeholders in decision making and the approach they are deciding to implement in management of COVID-19. You just saw yesterday when doctors made a press conference and said that they had about 20 health workers that have been infected by the virus. And you saw the Minister Kakwe disputing that there was nothing like that. Of course, I want to believe that there's nothing like that because I don't want to believe that our nurses are going to be infected in large numbers. We don't want that to happen in the country. But that one alone shows clearly that we as health workers are not being involved. How data is being collected, how it's being processed, and how it's being disseminated, we are not being involved. Because like the direct nursing service in the Ministry of Health should actually be having the data in relation to the nurses. And he should be able to communicate with us as leaders, me especially, because I am the spokesperson of the nurses in this country in matters of labor and employment matters. But if I'm left in the dark, maybe the director nursing services is in the dark. The minister is the only one who has information. That void, that vacuum that they have left can be filled by anybody. And that is why we are going to see many information coming out, which is not true, because the minister has got no mandate to stop me as a union from defending the rights of my members. And I'll defend the rights of the members based on the information I have. So if the information I have is not correct, because we are not being involved in the processing of this information and data from the source up to the point of delivering to the public, I have a right to tell my members across the country to know what is happening and to tell them to be more cautious, because this infection is a reality, is here with us. And if we are not careful, if we go to attend to patients without personal protective care, we are going to be infected. So I believe that the fact that there is information which came out yesterday, which the minister has disputed, should be evident enough to everybody in Kenya and in the world to know that we health workers in Kenya, we are only being used as tools to deliver what is required, tools of protection. And we have no say in what is going on as far as the management of COVID-19 in Kenya is concerned. And that is why I regretted the other day, I was on media, I said, I had much faith in Mutahi Kagwe. But the way he's running his affairs, he has actually adopted a lone ranger. As much as he's being surrounded by many people from the ministry, but the way he's leaving out stakeholders, that is government alone. Where are the stakeholders? Where are the professional societies? Where are the trade unions? We are the people who handle issues touching on our members. We represent our members. So when you keep us in, you keep us in the dark and you feel like we have no role to play, then we have a role to tell our members the information we think we have. Whether it's correct or not, I will tell them what information I have. Because Kenyans are very good in fabricating and manufacturing information, which may not be correct. But for us to know that we are having the correct information, we must be involved. For example, I must have trust in the Department of Nursing, in the Ministry of Health, that if statistics are released, even before they are released to the public, there should be a channel where, as a leader, that information is given to me by the person in charge of nurses. Because I will not allow somebody who's not in charge of nurses to talk about nurses. So that if somebody disputes the figures, I'm able to say, yes, these are the figures we have received from the government. And if the government is not telling us the truth, then we want to be involved now physically. If they are going to Kenyatta University to collect the information as a point of isolation, we want our member to be there representing the union. If they are going to Mbakathi, we want our member to be there representing the union. So that the data that's being produced and given to the public is accurate. So as we stand today, I'm not sure whether what Kagwe gave yesterday is accurate or not. And you asked two questions. Yes. The other one on allowances. The first question you asked was whether the health workers are being treated very well or not. That question actually covers everything, including the allowances. Our position has been that the government has not taken health workers with the seriousness that it deserves. Lip service, talking about how you value health workers, and by action you are not showing any action, it's not right. For example, when I begin with the allowances which are being given, other countries like Ghana, Ghana has given tax haven for health workers for a period of 4 months, hoping that within the period of 4 months, COVID-19 will have been dealt with. But perhaps if it continues, it will still extend. It has also increased health workers' salary by 50%. That's what Ghana has done. In the United States of America, frontline health workers, including nurses and doctors, have been given $2,000 extra US dollars per month. Other health workers have been given $1,000 US dollars per month. Now, in addition to the salary they earn. Yes. Come back to this country. We have the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, whose responsibility, according to me, has remained to oppose anything coming in the way of the nurses.
Why do you say that?
In the way of the nurses and the way of the health workers. Because there is no single day SRC has come up and said, we are recommending this allowance or this salary increment to the employers within public sector, so that when you go to negotiate with the trade unions, negotiate with these parameters. They tell employers within public sector, go and negotiate. When we negotiate and agree with the government agents that are charged with responsible employment, the only role that SRC plays is to say, don't pay. Now, they are talking about this salary raising inequality within public sector. The first question I want SRC to respond is there inequality within health sector? Because we have county governments that are hiring health workers on dubious employment terms which are not in tandem with the national employment policy. Some county governments are employing health workers with the diploma and they are paying 20,000 shillings, others 25, others 30,000, and that's gross. Imagine today when transport has doubled. So if it is true that SRC is working, it's supposed to ensure that it is ensuring that there is equality in employment, what has it done to these health workers in the country who are earning 25,000 shillings today, others 30, others 15,000. Others are calling it locum, which is casual employment. Others are saying contract. Where is SRC in terms of ensuring that there is justice for all health workers engaged by the government? If you are a nurse and you have a diploma and you are being paid 25,000 and you are doing the same job as another nurse on permanent and pensionable, getting maybe 100,000, and when you make a mistake, you are not going to be looked at as if you are on contract. The Nursing Council of Kenya will look at you as a nurse qualified working under the Nurses Act. So we are saying SRC is not being honest, or SRC, according to me, is sterile in terms of thinking. Every arm of government right now is trying to see how can we help in the fight. The reason why the Parliament is being convened today is to pass some laws in terms of the finance, which has been proposed by the President and the Treasurer. What is SRC doing? They are sitting there waiting. If an arm of government makes a proposal to motivate health workers, then it says no, it cannot increase. It should have been the first, as an advisor to government in terms of human resource, it should have already foreseen this and put measures in place that if we reach at this point, we will advise that both the national government and county governments, you will give incentive to frontline health workers this level. Even the police who are working 24 hours, fighting with some Moroki people in this country who do not listen to anything. Who are told don't go and have meetings. People are drinking. They are defying rules being given by the government. Such a fellows should not just be taken to police easily. They should be on your own way. You know, we cannot be playing around with this disease. In Kenya, look at a superpower like America. How many deaths have happened?
It's actually on its
knees. If we reach 10,000 infections in this country, we will not be able to handle it. And here you have people who are defying simple rules. If you must drink, why can't you go buy that beer and drink from your house? I want to complete the issue of SRC not doing its job. Now, when they made the advertisement to employ 6,000 health workers, more health workers.
More health workers.
The Public Service Commission intends to hire 2,500 nurses who holds diploma and certificate. It has not made provision. Now we have ICUs being opened across the country. But Public Service Commission is telling you it will hire nurses who have diploma and certificates plain. It is not going to hire specialized nurses to work in those ICUs.
Actually, and we will get to the hiring of nurses because all the counties now, they need more workers in the health field. And also, when we're taking a short breather, but when we come back, some people have argued that this corona is a very big menace. The county governments do not have enough capacity to do everything that should be done at the moment. Should some functions, and especially the corona, be transferred perhaps to the national government? We will be getting back to that question. Plus, what else more should be done? It's about 20 minutes past the hour. We're taking a short breather, but we will be right back.
Next on.
Maumivu ya kichwa chako na dalili nyingine zote zinasababishwa na kuelemewa kwake, ni lazima ufanywe upasuaji, lakini eneo la uvimbe wako ni la kipekee, lipo karibu na mshipa. Sasa kutokana na teknolojia ni vigumu sana kufanikiwa kuondoa.
Leo mama alipika chakula kwa ajili ya siku yako ya kuzaliwa.
Jamani, sio vyote vingi vilipikwa na nchi jao. Kuwapi?
Kwa hiyo ina maana umekubali?
Next on Corner.
Miller is applying for work.
Why are you sabotaging her?
Well, we want her in our camp. She's the one who's going to get us that folder and much more.
Going to get to the bottom of this.
If they were killed and you go on asking questions, you're in serious danger.
I was not born yesterday.
I'd love to be a part of that.
You, if you ever do this behind my back, I'll ban you for 1 month.
The old job is still available. I know how much you enjoyed it.
Episode of Elena's ghost.
When certain people who you already know find out that you're going to be set free, there will be reactions, there will be nervousness, and you know who will be the target, Rebecca.
So Rebecca Haran was acquitted of all charges. What does that mean, Tulio?
The next time that you pull out a gun to kill Eduardo or anyone else around here, you will be leaving my house. Do you understand?
If Eduardo discovers that Elena lied to him about something so important to him as his child, well, then that would really upset him.
Next on
Maumivu ya kichwa chako na dalili nyingine zote zinasababishwa na kuelemewa kwake, ni lazima ufanywe upasuaji, lakini eneo la uvimbe wako ni la kipekee, lipo karibu na mshipa. Sasa kutokana na teknolojia ni vigumu sana kufanikiwa kuondoa.
Leo mama alipika chakula kwa ajili ya siku yako ya kuzaliwa.
Jamani, sio vyote vingi vilipikwa na nchi jao. Kwapi?
Kwa hiyo ina maana umekubali?
Top on Channel 1.
I'm ordering you not to try anything against Rebecca. Because if you do, you and I are going to have a problem.
I hate that woman. I hate her with all of my heart. I want to leave now more than ever. Have my baby far away from her.
Afraid that the situation with Michael and Milady has gotten out of control. This is much more serious than I thought it was.
Oh God Almighty.
Tonight on Corner.
Jana wote utaka kujifeel special.
Lakini kabla uendelee niko nataka tujue sina pesa mingi.
Nani ameongea kuhusu pesa?
Mandera, this is an opportunity of a lifetime. And once they start selling, you'll never look back.
You and I need a serious talk.
Sure. Is there a problem?
I need to get some information.
Next on
Maumivu ya kichwa chako na dalili nyingine zote zinasababishwa na kuelemewa kwake, ni lazima ufanywe upasuaji, lakini eneo la uvimbe wako ni la kipekee, lipo karibu na mshipa. Sasa kutokana na teknolojia ni vigumu sana kufanikiwa kuondoa.
Leo mama alipika chakula kwa ajili ya siku yako ya kuzaliwa.
Jamani, sio vyote vingi vilipikwa na nchi jao. Kwapi?
Kwa hiyo ina maana umekubali?
Welcome back to Newscheck. And before we went for a short break, we were discussing about the special allowances and perks for medical staff that are working in the fight against coronavirus. I have been with Seth Panyako, who is the Secretary General of the Kenya Nurses Union, and joining us now is Robert Duba, who is the Kenya County Government Workers Union. You do remember that health is now a devolved function, and as I said, we are all in this fight together, and a lot needs to be done in that sector. Remember our viewpoint question: should SRC okay the special medical allowance for health workers? Since somebody asking whether we as media have been able to operate news from our homes, well, we are doing the best we can. You've seen us also using the online technology to carry out our investigative stories and also carrying out our news items. Robert Duba, karibu sana.
Asante.
And we were talking about how the government and the county government should be doing, and especially on the salaries and perks for health workers. But before then, we are heading to Athi River, where Health CS Mutahi Kagwe is touring EPZ, making PPEs and face masks. Let's first of all listen to their briefing.
Them from outside. And therefore, we are here with a team from the Ministry of Health, who are actually the end users of the personal protective equipment. We are talking about the face mask and the overall. They'll talk about the other details about that. But with me is Dr. Eva Njenga from the Ministry of Health. There is Dr. Nandile, also from the Ministry of Health. There is Mr. Ogola from the Ministry of Health. There is Mr. Ogengo from the Ministry of Health. There is Dr. Chivanzi Machozi from the KMPDU, and there is Dr. Ogola, all from the Ministry of Health. They are the end users of this equipment, and therefore I would want to give them the opportunity and to give her the opportunity to talk about what she's been able to see so far and of what this whole event has been. Dr. Najil, please.
Accepting a bit. Sorry with the mask. Good afternoon, all of you. Yeah, as a team of experts, we have come here to assess the PPEs that we are supposed to be used by our healthcare workers to protect themselves from contracting infection and to protect the public from also contracting infections. So either way in transmission on both sides. As we have observed, we have seen work in progress. There's excellent work going on at GTZ, although there's a slight gap which we have noticed as a team of experts, and we have asked them to rectify what we have observed, and we come back here on before the end of the week to verify once more so that it meets the standards that we set for them. Thank you.
Just one more question. Is it the first time that they are producing these PPEs en masse, or is it first that you have to approve them before they are dispersed to the end users? Also, what is the slight gap? What is that slight gap?
One thing, when we gave them the specifications as a government, the specifications underwent the KEBS standards, and they passed. After them passing the standards, we asked them to bring the item for verifications once more, which they did. And as a team, we felt we should have a larger team to come and look at what they have produced. We are happy with what they have done, but the only gap is this slight penetration of water. And that is not a big deal. That is something that can be done within a very short time.
Let me just ask about the numbers and the capacity that Shona has, and perhaps how many PPEs have already been dispersed.
I think with that, I would ask Isaac to come and respond to that question, because he's the one who is dealing with the manufacturing. Isaac.
Your full name, perhaps your position as well, and how many PPEs you've been able to produce, and what is your capacity on a daily basis?
My name is Isaac Maluki. I'm the director of Shona EPZ. And in terms of the capacity for PPEs, we can do about 20,000 coveralls per day. And if need be, then we can double up our production capacity.
20,000 overalls?
Yes.
About the mask, I mean the whole set?
The whole set, we can do 20,000 of each per day.
And how many have you done so far, Mr. Peter?
Currently, we are making for testing so that they can get approved. Once they have been approved, then we will go into the bulk production. Yes.
Just to add something, that what the government is doing here is to be able to get PPE that will eventually get even to the healthcare workers at the county level. And therefore, we are also asking the county health officials that all the purchases for PPEs should actually be those that meet the standards and specifications that have been set by the Ministry of Health, so that all of us and all of the healthcare workers can have equipment that can be able to, effectively protect them, but also provide them with a good working environment that can give them the confidence to manage our people.
I have a question. Currently, how many local factories have you approved to manufacture this PPE?
Yeah, currently there are 3 local factories that are making this equipment. We have the Kikotech in Kitui, there is Bedi in Nakuru, and there is Shona here. You know, like the CEO Shona did indicate that they're actually in the process of preparing, prototypes that once they've completely approved, then they'll now go into mass production. So right now it's actually, putting together a prototype, right? But the good news is this, is that, looking inward, help us to be able to untap potential that previously we had not been able to even, think that we have. And therefore, that potential being tapped also provides an opportunity for employment of our people who otherwise would be jobless, considering that, this corona situation has destabilized many businesses and even enterprises. So it is like every dark cloud always has got what? A silver lining. So we could probably say that looking at inward also provides a silver lining that some of our people who right now would be at home are actually currently being engaged productively.
Okay. Yeah. On the same line, we have seen some hawkers selling these masks, and some are not wrapped. How safe are they, and where are they coming from? If you have identified some gaps in some of these
very well, that's a good question. I'll leave Dr. Eva to address that.
Yeah. Good morning. Yes. My name is Dr. Eva Jenga. I'm the chair of the Kenya Medical and Dentist Council. We've been working collaboratively, even with the Kenya Medical and Dentist Union, with the Ministry of Health. And I think the issue of masks is very, very, very crucial. And I can see you are wearing everybody here is wearing a different style. You seem to be wearing one of N95. And N95 is not for common use or even for community use. These are the masks that is supposed to be left for the health professionals on the front line. This Shona is making also community masks. Community masks, the idea is to protect you from passing your droplets to other people around you. Then you have the surgical mask. The surgical masks are what also have a different level of protection. What you have said about how good are these masks? We need, even the public health, we need to have regulation of who is distributing these masks and who has the approval to produce masks en masse. Because some of them, of course, people will make, we've seen some even made from Kaga, and I've seen some, we are all sporting different fashions. I think it will be important, and I think Kano Oguna and Dr. Nagiri here will be able to actually release a statement from the Ministry of Health. What are the masks that are approved by the Ministry of Health? And this has to come out even sooner than later. Because some of these, all of us are really out there making masks even in our own homes. And I think this has to come out. It has not been addressed fully, but we need to do this. But having masks with your dirty hands, we've seen even some at the supermarkets where somebody comes and tries and finds it's too small and puts it back in the lot. Please, that cannot happen. You've already contaminated that mask, and you're going to leave it for somebody else to come and use it. That is not right, and that's what I think that's one of the things you're asking.
Yeah, this goes to the Colonel Mandera. What's going to happen? Because they are being hooked. Assume someone has COVID. What will happen?
But that's the doctor has already pronounced herself to it. She just talked about it, right? The government plan is actually to be able to distribute these masks free of charge through the county government, but targeting informal settlements, because again we are cognizant of socioeconomic realities in this country, and therefore the government is seized of the matter, is very much aware of it, and as soon as they are ready, they will be distributed, but not to each and every one of us. Let that be clear to everyone. They will not be distributed to each and every Kenyan. They will be distributed through the well-established structures, through the county government, to those that are vulnerable members of our society. So the government is fully.
I think the
yes.
That is government spokesman Cyrus Oguna there at the Shona EPZ factory at River. Of course, I had talked about the CES was expected in that function, but the government spokesman is there, plus a host of other doctors, and they are making a tour of how the masks are being produced. And some of the things they have talked about is that the PPEs and the masks for health workers and Kenyans to be distributed. And lastly, he has talked about targeting informal sector, and he has made it very clear that not enough masks for all Kenyans. Of course, that means also as a Kenyan, you have something you ought to do. But going back to our discussion on our viewpoint question, we are asking, should SRC okay the special medical allowances for health workers? Should the Salaries and Remuneration Commission okay or give the green light for the special medical allowance for health workers? At Ben Troinjwe at KBC Channel 1. And now, going back to my guest, Duba, welcome. What is your view on that? You are the Kenya County Government Workers Union Chair. Secretary General.
Thank you very much for having me, and I want to say I'm happy to be my brother here. It is the same business we do together. In the first instance, SRC has been the greatest pain we have as labor movement in the country. From its inception, even if you look at the law that brought it to being, it is not appropriately crafted. And we also understand that, of course, in the making of our Constitution 2010, we became overzealous in setting up so many commissions. And we gave them powers that we did not look at the possible effect that if these powers are abused, what do we do to keep them under control? So SRC is one of such constitutional forums or bodies that have become completely uncontrollable. And in one of the laws, in one of the clauses, it says that it shall not be subject to consultation with any other party. And first of all, even that citation in making of a law is something unheard of. You, as a constitutional body, you must be in consultation with as many bodies as possible, particularly the ones that fall within the confines of your constitutional mandate. For example, labor movement. How do you get distance from labor that you cannot be consulted, you cannot consult the labor movement in the course of your discharge of your duties? So the law that brought it into being itself is faulty from A to Z. And I think the intention of the crafters was to deal with the state operators who are not subject to other people's supervision. The question of labor, salaries, allowances, and all forms of wages are subject to negotiations between the employer and the employees.
Yes.
And it's never in excess because the employer by its nature is mean. The employee will always continue demanding.
Yes.
And anything that brings through dialogue, a consensus that says, the employer says, this I can afford to give you, and the union agrees, is well set and designed. And that is how labor harmony is achieved in a country. So the formation of SRC from point A to where we are has been faulty, it's not appropriate, and it has not worked well at all. So that is its origin. And where we are now is even a special circumstance, where we are dealing with COVID-19.
Yes.
This is something that has shaken the world. And the only institution in this country that has not been shaken is SRC. This is why you realize it is inappropriate. It is out of place. It has no feeling. It has gone numb. Its function is just to say no. I mean, it doesn't negotiate. It doesn't consult. It doesn't get consulted. How do you deal with such a body? In fact, the position of labor, and we agree with our Secretary General of the umbrella body, Francis Atoli, and many other general secretaries, we have fought and we continue to fight for its scrapping. It is not serving any purpose. Particularly, it's causing confusion. And where an organization at this stage of corona war. It's a world war, if anything. Any institution does not show signs of concern, signs of trying to mitigate the effect of COVID on its citizens, is not worth anything. So for me, it should not even be consulted because it's not the appropriate body to consult. We support the position taken by a brave governor like Mutua of Machakos, and many others who are, from the feeling we get, they want to follow suit. And that is the way it should be. We should stand up for ourselves. SRC is meant to serve us. If it's not serving, then it doesn't have any purpose.
Okay. And I said the government spokesman has talked about the masks, the PPEs being manufactured within the set standard, and we had talked about the standards that the masks should be standardized, as you had put it. Does that answer your question?
You see, when we talk about standards, the Ministry of Health is a consumer. And standards are set by the Kenya Bureau of Standards, as I've said. You have not seen a representative of Kenya Bureau of Standards. So I'm still questioning, because all those officers who are there, none of them has been taught in school how a mask, a surgical mask, what are the components of surgical masks as opposed to ordinary masks that are supposed to be worn by each and every citizen in terms of prevention of infection. So as far as I'm concerned, that is not a competent team that can say that they are competently approving those masks. Because as far as I'm concerned, the Kenya Bureau of Standards is the one that is responsible for ensuring of quality of all products in this country.
Yes.
And in that regard, it is upon the Kenya Bureau of Standards to constitute responsible bodies which now look at the international standards and domesticate those standards in Kenya and then say this is what we have. And as I've told you earlier, as we sit here today, Kenya Bureau of Standards has said they do not have local standards as far as personal protective equipment is concerned. And that's why I posed a question and I asked, if they don't have local standards as per now, how have they been allowing a multinational bodies to import into this country those protective gears when we have nobody who is actually looking at how the quality is? One time before nurses took over non-pharmaceutical equipment within the hospitals, we used to get gloves that were torn. They had the fly inside. There's something called fly inside, which you make sure that you can easily put on and put off. Yes. It had things like stones inside there. So they were very poor quality. And when we took over as nurses, because we were the principal, nurses use many gloves than any other health worker in the health sector. So when we took over the management of the non-pharmaceutical staff in the country, we improved the quality of those products. Even some of the IV fluids will come, and when you start to infuse in a patient, the fluids start to go up instead of entering the patient. We managed that because we were the user. But today, that one was taken away and given to pharmacists. So I want to come back to a question you asked, and I did answer it fully, on SRC and the allowance. I said, my colleague has looked at the law and how it's violating the right of the workers provided in Article 41 and other, of course, other provision of the law. I have mentioned one aspect that if it is talking of inequality within the public sector, then we are asking them, what role have they done to ensure that there is equality? The last thing I've not mentioned.
Hold the thought. We just head to Harambee House. There is a briefing that is currently underway. Let's first of all listen in. We'll get back to your comment.
Over 20,000 people who had died from corona-related circumstances. And these were mainly people from hospitals. This did not include the numbers of people who may have passed away in homes and other old people cares, homes and such places. So far, we have on record about 5 Kenyans who have succumbed not necessarily to COVID-19, but who have died in the last month and who have underlying causes that could have made them susceptible to COVID-19 conditions. As you can well imagine, getting information has not been easy, but we do have that list, and we shall be able to share with you that information later to give you a sense of who those are who have passed on in the last month or so. The situation in Canada is not as bad as the United States, and we have had no case of any Kenyan who has passed on, and therefore we remain grateful that situation, even though challenging, even though everybody is on lockdown, even though everybody has to stay home, that they remain safe, and we continue to work very closely with our mission there to make sure that we observe in that situation carefully. But let's be clear that this situation globally will remain with us for anywhere between 3 to 6 months. And as a consequence, we have to be prepared to face up with this situation, and particularly with regard to the fact that the lockdown might affect international travel, which means that many of our people in North America and elsewhere may have a real challenge coming home. The situation in Europe is not much better. As many of you are aware, Italy, France, the United Kingdom, and Spain have been severely affected. They are having upwards of 700 deaths a day, sometimes at the peak of it, over 900 deaths a day. We have had, and we have remained in touch with our diaspora in many of those countries. We are thankful that we have not had too many cases of people who have been affected. In Spain, we have only stranded passengers, of which we are trying to figure out how we can get support to them, including a student. In Hungary, we have 21 students who have been stranded there for a long time, but we have continued to work with the government of Hungary to provide assistance to them. In France, we have 61 training assistants who have been stranded there, and we continue to work with the government there. I don't have to tell you about the situation in the UK. We don't have the full statistics because we have a very large number of Kenyans who reside in the United Kingdom, and we continue to keep a sharp eye on them. We have continued to remain engaged. Our embassies continue to remain engaged and continue to reach out wherever they can. I think you should all be aware that every single one of these embassies is now working from home. None of them are able to work and go to the office, and so they are working virtually. This has complicated the situation severely, but it is something that our ambassadors and our officers continue to respond to so as to be able to rise to the challenge that they face. In countries like Poland and Greece and Cyprus and Malta and countries like that, we are working with them indirectly because we don't have a mission there, but we do have missions here in Kenya, and also we do have a relationship with those countries through embassies that are based elsewhere in Europe. In the situation in the Middle East is equally concerning. We have very many Kenyans working in the Middle East. Many of them have been affected by this situation. A significant number of them have lost their jobs. This is a worrisome situation that we are trying to continually monitor. We have had some countries like Saudi Arabia who have announced that they will continue to support all the people who are there, which is a very positive thing. But we've also had other governments in the Middle East expressing their willingness to continue to support Kenyans who are there, in as much as they will not have them evicted and or put out on the street, which is something that we are very concerned about. We have been in touch with all governments around the world. We have written to them to ask them to look after Kenyans, to continue to reach out to Kenyans, just as we are continuing to look after the international community that is here in Nairobi, to make sure that no harm comes to them, that we do our best to set up the best systems, to provide the best health care, the best response to this COVID-19 crisis, to ensure that all the international people who are based here in Kenya are safe. This is our commitment, but it is also our hope and our expectation that the same thing will be done by all the other countries in the world. In Asia, we continue to see a similar situation as we see in the rest of the world. As I said earlier, this epidemic started in China, and we saw the greatest impact early on in China. As many of you are aware, we have close to 3,000 Kenyans in China, maybe even a little more. Some of them are not registered, so it's hard to be able to keep tabs of everybody. But we don't have in China a single case of a Kenyan who has succumbed to COVID-19. And this is a remarkable thing when you imagine that the crisis started in China. And if you recall, we have students who are stranded in Wuhan City, which was the epicenter of the crisis in China. And we remain very grateful that the Chinese government was able to secure the well-being of all those students. And as the lockdown is now being lifted, some of those students are now able to move around China once again. Now, you have heard in the case of China about the situation in Guangzhou province. And this situation has been extremely worrisome to all of us. In the case of that situation, you know, there have been reports in the social media, and some of our parliamentarians and senators and politicians have been very concerned about their constituents in Guangzhou City and in that province. The reality is that this has been a very unfortunate outcome. Africans, Kenyans included, have been discriminated against in the process of the government's response, the provincial government's response to trying to mop up the situation that they are facing there post the crisis that they had over the last few months. The government there has been working very hard to make sure that there is no resurgence of the COVID-19 epidemic in China. And some of the provincial governments have been over-enthusiastic, and sadly, they have discriminated and targeted various foreigners in their response. However, I think you know that the African Union has responded collectively in consultation with us, and we're very happy with the way in which the chairman, the current chairman, the president of South Africa, issued a statement, which I think you should all have seen by now. We were consulted in the development of that statement and in the issuance of that statement. In China itself, our ambassador and her team have continued to work very hard to reach out to all of our diaspora in China. China is a big country. It is an entire subcontinent. But nonetheless, we have continued to try to reach out to our diaspora. And I can tell you that any time anyone has been brought up to me individually, let alone the ambassador in China, as having been affected negatively by these circumstances where Africans and or Kenyans have been discriminated against, we have taken up that matter directly. And every single one of them that has been brought to our attention has been resolved.
That has been PS Macharia Kamau, Ambassador Macharia Kamau at Harambee House with the CS for Foreign Affairs, talking about or giving a brief on the coronavirus situation and a brief of how Kenyans are coping and are faring in other countries. Of course, Europe and America, one of the two continents that have been worst hit. But he is saying that no Kenyan has died abroad, and especially in Kenya, the epicenter of the coronavirus. And many are okay, but are stranded due to the grounding of travel in most countries. And because of the interest of time, we'll jump straight to our discussion. Mr. Duba, Parliament is reconvening today. Would you like to see some of the legislation touching on county workers, and of course the health workers are some of the workers in your union? And secondly, according to you and your union, how has the government and mostly the Ministry of Health dealt with the coronavirus, according to you, to this moment in regards to your member who are unionizable members of your union?
Yes, thank you very much for that question. The response by government is multifaceted. It's not one channel. And the way we want to address this is that it must have collective responsibility from all the players within the Republic. And it's a world challenge.
Yes.
And because of that, I confine myself to not the Ministry of Health specifically, but the entire government response, and in particular the county governments, because that is where the bulk of our members are. And I don't think it is sufficient. Some of them complain about resource constraints and so on, but there are certain basics. There are certain basics which needs to be done. Take a case like workers within Nairobi. It's a major city where they are involved with a lot of all different. We also have nurses cutting across our two unions.
Yes.
There are members who are also in this union.
Yes.
And they have not been adequately addressed by the employer to begin with, because I think this is where we need to begin.
The county governments now.
The county governments.
Yes.
You know, like Nairobi, they instituted something called the transfer of functions between the national government and the county government. It was something that came at the most inappropriate moment. Of course, we need the service delivery to the citizens of Nairobi. That is not doubted.
Yes.
But also the timing itself. And one of those transfer activities involved assembling 6,000 people at Uhuru Park, at KICC, when the policy in place, the current practice in place against the war, in the war on COVID-19, is to keep social distance. You know, this kind of uncoordinated and reckless actions can expose workers dangerously. The employers should provide, for example, for medical staff, for nurses, for street sweepers, for receptionists, for all these basic things like they approved, as my brother said. For the time being, if there isn't approved standard, something which could closely match, you know, a protective gear, this should be provided. Sanitizers at every point, even small industries are provided. So the county governments have not moved with the speed as appropriate to be able to protect workers. And if the workers are not protected, nobody is protected. Because what will happen is that this thing catches on, and it is so infectious, and it will go into everywhere, including our slum areas where we have large populations. And once it gets there, and most of our members also live in these places for the purpose of affordable housing. So you will create a scenario that will make the country generally, not only the viewpoint of workers, but generally completely unsafe, and a disaster may be lacking.
Yeah.
So this is the position we want to take. The county governments must take all what they need, the steps they need to take, in order to safeguard the employees who are on their counters, in their offices, at the site where they are performing duties.
Yes.
Be it in hospitals. Like, for example, there is a case that's been reported that many medics have been affected. That needs to be investigated. I saw the minister saying we have not confirmed. These are not confirmed allegations. But it should be checked. If it's confirmed, it's a matter we must address as a matter of urgency. We have people who are exposed, like the case, you know, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And the media houses must highlight this. What happened during the, I don't know, transfer functions in Nairobi, for example, assembling 6,000 people? It's bizarre in the circumstances.
Yes.
You know, why should we allow this? I mean, this war will be lost if we behave this way.
Okay.
So these are the things we need to put in place collectively. The Ministry of Health, perhaps for the medical staff, and it has a supervisory role, it's giving updates and so on. But there is also a big danger that we have been dealing with the quarantine group. We don't know what the situation looks like. For example, the figure yesterday was alarming, 15 people in a day. I think that's the highest reported per day before. I don't know whether there have been other figures. This now raises concern. So there should be more effort. We should not relax. We should not feel that stories of Trump and the other European countries that are perhaps more endowed, who now say that we are ready to go and we can do without any care. We should not fall into that trap.
Okay. Mr. Panyako, the legislators are convening today, Abate 53, but what are some of the legislation you would want to see and some of the measures taken other than talking about only the finances? What about the nurses themselves? You do remember even they would require insurance in times of a pandemic like this one that we are having right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, when you asked the question of what the government has done, I didn't have enough time to respond to what we think the government has not done. One of the things that we have been asking has been life insurance for frontline health workers.
Yes.
In case one of them loses life today, what happens to his or her family? We are strongly advocating for that. And in terms of employment, I still say that SRC has failed. Perhaps SRC never had any job because we have not seen impact. Today, as we are talking, employment which is proposed to be employed is discriminating against nurses who have degrees.
Yes.
And these are Kenyans who have gone to school. Why do we train young people in this country, very bright young people, they go to university with the MAs and M-, and they do a course in nursing in a degree approved by the government. Then when it comes to employment, you refuse to employ them. They want to employ ordinary nurses with ordinary diplomas to go and work in critical care units when we have nurses with higher diploma in critical care. Where is SRC to advise the government, to advise the Public Service Commission, to advise the government that they should not discriminate against BSN nurses and they should not hire ordinary basic nurses to go and work in specialized units, especially at COVID-19. So we expect Parliament today to pass and approve governments, both national and county governments, to give incentives to health workers as they can afford. We want them to approve that. We also want Parliament to approve the budgetary allocation, I think supplementary budget that has been put there with the purpose of fighting COVID-19. But we expect the Parliament also to look into the issue of treatment of Kenyans in equal. Let all Kenyans have benefit of the law on an equal basis. Not to say that these people benefit, this one will not benefit. We want proper information, and we want also Parliament to look into issue that leaders who are responsible for I hold nurses who deliver about 85% of healthcare services in Kenya, and yet I'm not involved in anything going around. So I want to call upon the Parliament to urge and set up an independent investigation team to investigate the allegations that were made by Dr. Mwachonda, who is the acting General Secretary for Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Union, to see whether actually we have 20 health workers infected or not. We are not going to wish that thing out, and I'm going to write to the Cabinet Secretary once this show is over. We want them to do that, and if they are not going to give equal opportunities in employment, that they want to employ 6,000 nurses, I'm moving to court to stop that employment. Every Kenya has a right to enjoy the full benefit of this country. We all pay taxes, and we cannot discriminate against our own children.
And picking up the pace, some people have talked about several challenges that the county governments are facing, especially in the health department. We've seen the go-slows and even strikes before we even had this coronavirus. And some people have suggested that this is the biggest time that at least we give the national government some of the function, and especially in relations to the coronavirus. Is that the way to go
in other forums, I've suggested that health should have been handed over to the national government. Perhaps the president should have declared a state of emergency in terms of healthcare delivery in Kenya and handed over to the national government. As we are talking today, Vihiga County government has not paid salaries for March. And they are saying they may not even pay for April. They are saying the earliest workers can get salary in Vihiga is in July. And we have COVID-19 that, among other things, requires the health workers to be having proper nutrition. We have children at home. They're not going to school. The budget that we run on a daily basis when children are at school has increased. We have the issue of transport, which has now doubled. We have been asking the government to at least double the transport. It's not doing it. As nurses, we are saying risk allowance paid to nurses is too low. Today, we are being told we are frontline. Frontline health, we are the soldiers at the front line. But when it comes to money, we are the leading from behind. Nurses are paid 3,800 risk allowance, while others who are on third line defense are getting 20,000. We have been telling the government we want to pay this amount of money. One of the things that I'm not going to do, I will not ask nurses to go on strike, because this war we cannot afford to lose it.
Yes.
But once we are done with COVID-19, we now have seen how the government and arms of government treat health workers with a lot of contempt, especially SRC. And our recommendation will remain, disband SRC. Let us have the National Collective Bargaining Council that will be in charge of discussing and negotiating salaries on behalf of the government with the trade unions and commissions and even with Parliament. You see Parliament today, SRC comes and says, we will pay you this. Parliament also, they're employees of the government, they're employees of the public. They also have a right to negotiate on their own terms and conditions of service. So I think for us to have fixed SRC and gave it those unfettered powers that are unchecked was a great mistake that should be corrected during this referendum.
And Duba, do you support what Seth is talking about, that now because we are facing this monster of a challenge, we should actually give the national government some of the responsibility and in respect to this coronavirus?
Yes, point number one that you raised on the issue of Parliament. Parliament has two tasks. Short term, which is response to the menace of COVID-19, and it involves many, trying to look everywhere, readjust, relocate funds in order to successfully wage a war against COVID-19. It has long-term responsibility also, because the problem we have in our country, as my brother has said, is that SRC, and as I said at the beginning, is a monster not responsible to anybody. It has defiled all the laws. Labor laws, there are about 5 pieces of labor laws. The Labor Relations Act, Labor Institutions Act, Workman Injury Act, and others. There are about 5, Employment Act. You know, none of those pieces of legislation is in effect because of interference by SRC. It has, and it's not answerable to anybody. You don't know who to, report them to.
Yes.
You know, the last time we had an issue of CBA here in Nairobi, that we agreed with the employer. And the law says a trade union shall negotiate with an employer on free and voluntary basis and arrive at a CBA and register an industrial code so that it has the force of law.
Yes.
And we followed that process. And SRC come and says, no, it can't, it's registered, it has a force of law, but we are law unto ourselves. It can't be put into effect. I mean, we can't have an organization working that way.
Yes.
Whether it's a constitutional commission, it is a parastatal, in any form of a board. You can't work like this. You must work within the community of the citizens, and within the law. So the question of SRC as far as labor is concerned, the movement of labor in this country is concerned, it has no space. It should be done away with. We have made these recommendations. We have made one, we have made all. One, individual unions have done, collectively we have done, COTU has done. Actually, that is a body that is a disgrace to this republic.
Okay, kindly, gentlemen, unfortunately...
And just to add to a bit that you also mentioned, there is no way that we can have order to do business when workers and employers' right to negotiate and talk has been interfered with.
Okay.
And Parliament cannot go beyond what it has given in the law. The law says employer and employee, and that is the first line.
Yes.
So that if they don't agree, then there is the Minister of Labor who is the umpire, then with the industrial court. The process is very clear. All this has been interfered with. We go to courts, We get certain judgments, they are not SRC vetoes. I don't know, they are not honored.
Okay.
They are not answerable to anybody.
Gentlemen, because of the interest of time, kindly 1 minute each. Seth, you've talked about the ministry needs to do a lot. In 1 minute, in a scale of 1 to 10 in relations to the coronavirus, honestly, how would you rate the government?
I'll rate the government 4 out of 10 because at the moment we still have the problem of personal protective equipment.
Okay. As
much as we're being told that they are being produced, they're not being produced. 2, the government is not listening to stakeholders. The government is not listening to the issues being raised by this union.
Yes.
3, the government has certain arms like SRC that is insensitive to the plight of the health workers and the public at large. All I have to say is that I'll urge and recommend the chair of the Council of Governors for the good work he has done. If I were to rate the Council of Governors with all the difficulties they have, I think the chair of the Council of Governors has done very well. I also want to commend the government in terms of the Ministry of Health for disseminating of clear, precise information on prevention, on what people should do. But I want to urge security apparatus in this country not to spare any hooligan who wants to disobey clear, simple regulations that if followed within 90 days, we shall have conquered this COVID-19.
Thank you. Duba, on a scale of 1 to 10, honestly, in your opinion, in relations to what the government is doing for the coronavirus pandemic, how would you rate it?
I can rate them, first of all, I think it's better if I,
30 seconds,
if I break it up this way, like my brother has done. The Ministry of Health, in terms of really keeping people informed and giving caution and advising and so on and so forth, keeping people on their toes in relation to how to should defend themselves, I think I commend them. They have done a good job.
Okay.
Relating to county governments, in terms of the way they have managed labor, I'll give them 1 out of 10. They have not done any business to help the workers who are under the jurisdiction. I told them earlier at the time when the Constitution came into being, register an employer's body so that you have the power to speak within the law with the trade unions, negotiate with the unions, and speak without the national government and do your business in labor as provided under Article 41 of the Constitution. They refuse to do so. Now everybody is speaking, on his own. The Council of Governors for the first time, the chair also has been sleeping on the job. Let me tell you, they have all been sleeping. First, the previously Isaac Ruto was violent. He never listened to us. Then next came Nanok. Next came Nanok and I think Munya. Munya was a little bit better, but he was hurried out of office. This one, he knows the job. He has in public service. This is Oparanya. And we expect him to have done more. He's trying to wake up now. I heard him say yesterday, Vihiga, you should pay. So and so, you should pay. If he keeps up,
and that is salary.
That is salary. That's salary. Imagine if he keeps up this trend. I'll raise the max from 1 to about 4.
All right, gentlemen. Indeed, thank you so much for making time. And we had a lot to talk about, but because of time, unfortunately, we are not able to do that. But I have been talking to 2 gentlemen here who are Secretary Generals in their various unions. We have Seth Panyako, who is the Kenya National Union of Nurses Secretary General, and Robert Duba, who is the Kenya County Government Workers Union Secretary General, actually sharing a brief on what it takes, and especially for special allowances and perks for our first line of defense, which is the medical professions. Thank you so much indeed for watching. Let's continue this conversation on Twitter at Bentroenjoy at KBC Channel 1. I can see my colleague Timothy Kipnusu is on standby with Tamrini.
Next on Corner.
Pamela is applying for work.
Why are you sabotaging her?
Well, we want her in our camp. She's the one who's going to get us that folder and much more.
Going to get to the bottom of this.
If they were killed and you go on asking questions, you're in serious danger.
I was not born yesterday.
I'd love to be a part of that.
You, if you ever do this behind my back, I'll ban you for 1 month.
The old job is still available. I know how much you enjoyed it.
On the next episode of Elena's Ghost.
When certain people who you already know find out that you're going to be set free, there will be reactions, there will be nervousness, and you know who will be the target, Rebecca.
So Rebecca Haran was acquitted of all charges. What does that mean, Tulio?
The next time that you pull out a gun to kill Eduardo or anyone else around here, you will be leaving my house. Do you understand?
If Eduardo discovers that Elena lied to him about something so important to him as his child, well, then that would really upset him.
Next on.
Maumivu ya kichwa chako na dalili nyingine zote zinasababishwa na kuelemewa kwake, ni lazima ufanywe upasuaji, lakini eneo la uvimbe wako ni la kipekee, lipo karibu na mshipa. Sasa kutokana na teknolojia ni vigumu sana kufanikiwa kuondoa.
Leo mama alipika chakula kwa ajili ya siku yako ya kuzaliwa.
Jamani, sio vyote, vingi vilipikwa na nchi jao. Kuapi?
Kwa hiyo ina maana umekubali?
On the next episode of Elena's Ghost.
When certain people who you already know find out that you're going to be set free, there will be reactions, there will be nervousness, and you know who will be the target, Rebecca.
So Rebecca Haran was acquitted of all charges. What does that mean, Tulio?
The next time that you pull out a gun to kill Eduardo or anyone else around here, you will be leaving my house. Do you understand?
If Eduardo discovers that Elena lied to him about something so important to him as his child, well, then that would really upset him.
Next on Corner.
Miller is applying for work.
Why are you sabotaging her?
Well, we want her in our camp. She's the one who's going to get us that folder and much more.
Going to get to the bottom of this.
If they were killed and you go on asking questions, you're in serious danger.
I was not born yesterday.
I'd love to be a part of that.
You, if you ever do this behind my back, I'll ban you for 1 month.
The old job is still available. I know how much you enjoyed it.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
Never say never, Mister, eh? Just pray that you don't fall into temptation.
Hey, Wasi Solomon. That is the third time you said pray today. Are you okay?
Of course I'm okay. Why would the time be?
Guys, nowadays we have so many unfaithful people. So for my money to be safe, I must be one of the officials.
Ati nini? Over my body, that can never happen.
What are you guys talking about?
Looks like teacher is worried about his health. He's not sure he will live long enough to witness something extraordinary he'll be doing in the future.
Classmates, every Saturday on KBC.
Top on Channel 1.
I'm ordering you not to try anything against Rebecca. Because if you do, you and I are going to have a problem.
I hate that woman. I hate her with all of my heart. I want to leave now more than ever. Have my baby far away from her.
Afraid that the situation with Michael and Milady has gotten out of control. This is much more serious than I thought it was.
Oh, God Almighty.
Tonight on Corner.
Jana wote utaka kujifeel special.
Lakini kabla uendelee niko nataka tujue sina pesa mingi.
Nani ameongea kuhusu pesa?
Manjada, this is an opportunity of a lifetime. And once they start selling, you'll never look back.
You and I need a serious talk.
Sure. Is there a problem?
I wish to get some information.
Kijana, nikusikia unasikia ama usikii?
Nimesema kina Tracy wanaishi huko karibu na kwenyu. Toka hapa uende, mimi ndio naishi hapa.
So, unanitia Tracy ama
kijana? Kusikia ndio unasikia ama usikii? Toka hapa uende, mimi ndio naishi hapa.
Unaweza je transfer mtoto wangu shule atunampeleka private school? Kazi unafanya itakuruhusu kulipa hiyo fee?
Hapo kwa fee.
Naona Chama amekataa na ball yangu.
Wewe.
Unajua hiyo ball nimepea.
The next time I'm talking usijaribu kuniintrude. Umesikia? Toka hapa.
Tufungulie. Please. Tufungulie.
Next on.
Snakes are perhaps the most revered of reptiles among people all over the world. But a resident of India's northern Lucknow city opened a clinic exclusively for this venomous creature. Even after biting cold and rain had killed millions of monarch butterflies, millions more arrived despite concerns that fewer numbers would return on the annual southward migration to Mexico. A German pensioner has adopted a female stork and her 2 young ones, feeding the birds a breakfast of dead hen chicklets in his garden every morning after the father stork was electrocuted in a thunderstorm.
Kitambulisho hicho ni ishara tosha kwamba ni wakati wa tamrini ya Channel 1 leo, ikiwa ni siku ya Jumanne tarehe 14 mwezi wa 4 mwaka 2020, nikiwa na wingi wa matumaini kwamba ubweri wa afya mahala popote ulipo, wakati ambapo tunaendelea kupambana na jinamizi la gonjwa la COVID-19 ambalo kama ninavyodokeza kila mara limeitikisa taifa hili na ulimwengu kote, mtazamaji. Na haya yanajiri huku waziri wa afya Mutahi Kagwe akithibitisha visa vingine 11 hapo jana na kupelekea watu ambao wameambukizwa ugonjwa huu kufikia 208, huku hofu ikitanda zaidi kuhusiana na matamshi yake kwamba huenda visa hivi vikashuhudiwa hasa kwenye kaunti za mashinani. Na hii leo basi tutakuwa tunazamia swala hili la janga hili la corona, na nitakuwa napiga gumzo na katibu mkuu wa chama cha Third Way Alliance Frederick Okango, ambapo vile vile atatueleza athari za corona kwenye siasa, athari za corona katika sekta mbalimbali za homo nchini. Lakini kama ilivyo ada, kwanza tuangazie shajara. Hizo ni baadhi ya taarifa ambazo tunazifuatilia. Kama ilivyo ada, wanahabari wetu wamekita kambi maeneo tofauti katika kukufahamisha masuala yanayotikisa taifa hili, jinsi wa Kenya wanavyozidi kukabiliana na gonjwa hili la corona, ikizingatiwa kwamba wengi wamekuwa wakipiga gumzo kuhusiana na ile amri ya kutotoka nje iliyotekelezwa na serikali, na vile vile hasa katika jiji hili la Nairobi, ikizingatiwa kwamba ni makao makuu ya taifa hili, wengi wakilalama kwamba wamefungiwa katika jiji hili, hawawezi kusafiri mashinani kuweza kukutana na wapendwa wao. Na kama nilivyodokeza, hii leo basi nitakuwa napiga gumzo na Frederick Okango ambaye ni katibu mkuu wa chama cha Third Way Alliance kuzungumzia athari za corona katika taifa hili. Naitwa Timothy Kipnusu na kusi uweze kuandamana nami sako kwa bako, unyo kwa unyo hadi pale nitakapotia alama ya kikomo. Una fursa ya kuzungumza nasi kupitia mitandao ya kijamii kwenye kurasa yetu wa Facebook KBC Channel 1, tuko angi kwenye Twitter KBC Channel 1 na @Kipnusu
Timothy, wazo lako ni nini kuhusiana na vita dhidi ya gonjwa hili la corona? Je, unahisi kwamba serikali inaendelea kuweka mikakati kabambe kupambana na jinamizi hili au kidogo imelegeza kamba? Kwa hivyo zungumza nasi, tutakuwa napitia jumbe hizo nikinafasika hapa kwenye Tamrini ya Channel 1. Tutaanza na mahojiano moja kwa moja. Karibu sana Freddy Kokango kwenye kitengo cha mahojiano.
Asante Timothy.
Kwanza kabisa, athari za corona hasa katika siasa hapa nchini.
Asante Timothy. Wajua hili ni janga la kimataifa, sio la kitaifa. Na ndio maana unaona leo kwa njia moja au nyingine tumekaa mita 1.5 kwa umbali wa mita 1.5. Na bila shaka vitengo vyote vya serikali zimeathiriwa, vitengo vya biashara, maisha ya kawaida. Na ukiangalia vizuri ni ile ambayo tunaita mambo ambayo yalikuwa ya kawaida. Hata baada ya corona tunaomba Mwenyezi Mungu tuimalize mapema. Hayatakuwa mambo ya kawaida tena. Kwa sababu hili janga lishakuja likatuletea mambo mengine. Saizi huwezi salimiana. Wajua, huwezi shika uso kiolela, huwezi ingia mikutano, huwezi ukaribia watu wengi. Na inamaanisha katika utengo wa kisiasa ni kukutana na watu, kuzungumza na watu, kushiriki na watu, kujumuika na watu. Itakuwa vigumu sana wakati huu wanasiasa kuanza zile mikakati zao za kuendeleza shughuli za kisiasa, kwa sababu hauwezi kushirikiana na wale wapiga kura, huwezi kushirikiana na wale wananchi wa kawaida. Kwa hivyo siasa vile vile imeathirika pakubwa mno. Unakumbuka kabla hili janga litufikie humu nchini, kulikuwa na mikakati mbalimbali ya kutaka kurekebisha katiba, mikakati ya kutaka kufanya hivi na vile ya kisiasa tu. Lakini kwa sasa hauyaoni. Inamaanisha wanasiasa washazama, saizi hawawezi kukutana na wale wafuasi wao.
Swali ni je, kwa sasa Okango mnadhibiti hali kivipi? Je, siasa imeathirika kabisa au pengine nyie pamoja na wafuasi wenu kama vile chama hiki cha Third Way Alliance mnawasilisha aje ujumbe kuhusiana na masuala ambayo pengine yanahusu chama, au kwa sasa shughuli zimelemazwa pakubwa kabisa?
Wajua katika demokrasia kuna nafasi mingi sana za kuzungumza na watu. Na sio chama chetu peke yake. Vyama vyote vya kisiasa huu nchini nimeona mara mingi wamezungumza kupitia mitandao, wamezungumza kupitia nakala ambazo wanatuma katika vyombo vya habari, wamezungumza kupitia zile video. Wajua, kwa hivyo hakuna kitu ambacho kimelemazwa. Lakini itakuwa vibaya sana sasa hivi mwanasiasa kuangazia mambo ambayo ni ya kisiasa wakati ambapo Wakenya wengi wameathiriwa zaidi kiuchumi na janga hili la corona. Kwa hivyo mimi kwa mtazamo wangu, ingawaje siasa imelemazwa kidogo, na tunawaomba wanasiasa wazungumze na wafuasi wao kupitia mitandao ili wasije wakaambukizana, lakini pia wasije wakaingia mambo ya siasa sana kwa sasa hivi.
Nilikuwa nije katika swala hili na vile vile Wakenya wamekerwa na baadhi ya wanasiasa ambao wanafanyia swala hili au wanatafuta umaarufu kupitia swala hili.
Kupitia janga hili.
Pengine kwa mtazamo wako kama chama chenyu cha Third Way Alliance na vyama vingine vya kisiasa hapa nchini, unaona kwa kiwango kipi ambacho wao wameweza kusaidia kupambana na janga hili? Na wale wanasiasa kwa mfano iko kwenye umma kwamba baadhi ya magavana au baadhi ya wanasiasa wametafuta umaarufu kupitia vile vinadhifishi au vieuzi na masuala kama hayo, wengine wakijaribu kutoa taarifa ambayo kidogo ni ya kupotosha, ambayo inakinzana na taarifa ambayo imetolewa na Wizara ya Afya. Wito wako kwa wanasiasa kama hao, na pengine si serikali ichukue hatua zipi kwa wanasiasa kama hao?
Asante Timothy. Kwanza kabisa mimi ningependa kuwashukuru sana wanasiasa, baadhi yao. Nitakupa mfano mzuri sana. Gavana mmoja wa Mombasa anaitwa Ali Hassan Joho. Huyo bwana alijitokeza waziwazi na kuweka mikakati kabambe ya kuhakikisha kwamba watu wake wasije wakaathiriwa na janga hili. Kuanzia kuosha mikono, kuweka zile vifaa vya kuhakikisha kwamba wale wahudumu wa afya wamejikinga, wamelindwa na kadhalika. Na baadhi wao wengine wamezungumza. Lakini kuna vitengo fulani au kuna baadhi ya wanasiasa fulani ambao wametumia nafasi hii kama nafasi ya kujitafutia maarufu.
Bila shaka shikilia hapo Bwana Okango. Naarifiwa kwa sasa tuweze kutathmini jinsi hali ilivyo kwenye gatuzi la Mombasa, na mwanahabari wetu Juni Karisa yuko kule. Kumbuka kwamba hapo jana alikuwa anawasilisha lalama ya baadhi ya wakazi katika eneo hilo ambao walikuwa wanaelekeza au mwaga kero lao kuhusiana na kufungwa kwa baadhi ya kaunti na wao kutotekeleza majukumu yao. Juni Karisa, kama unanipata, hali iko vipi? Je, pengine wale ambao wamekuwa kilalamikia swala hili wamepata suluhu mwafaka kuhusiana na wao kusafiri hadi maeneo mengine ili kutafuta njia ya kudakatonge?
Naam, Timothy Kipnusu, tuko tu na chama cha wafanyikazi wa bandari ya Mombasa, yani Dock Workers Union ambao hii leo wamekuja tu kutoa malalamishi kadha wa kadha kufuatia vile bandari ya Mombasa inaendesha shughuli ikiwemo virusi hivi vya COVID-19 ambavyo kwa sasa vimeweza kuadhiri wengi. Na chama hichi ambapo maafisa wake wako nyuma yangu wanatoa makataa ya siku 3 kwa wanaongoza bandari ya Mombasa waweze kuweka mipangilio dhabiti ili kuona kwamba wafanyikazi wao wameweza kupimwa wote kufuatia kifo cha mmoja wao ambao ni James Oyugi ambacho kilifanyika hivi juzi, na wakisema kwamba wako na malalamishi tofauti na wangependa kwamba uongozi huo uweze kuweka vifaa mwafaka ili kuona kwamba wafanyikazi hao wamekingwa na virusi hivi, ukifuatia kwamba la rais liliweza kukataa watu kuingia na kutoka, lakini ukiangalia kwamba meli ya mizigo bado inaweza kufika pale katika bandari ya Mombasa. Wanasema kwamba ukiangalia watu wengi ambao wameambukizwa na virusi hivi, wengi wametoka katika bandari ile, na wanasema kwamba hospitali pia imefurika na watu ambao pia wanaweza kuwa na ukiangalia signs za ugonjwa huu wa COVID-19. Kwa hivyo wanaomba kwamba bandari hii iweke mikakati dhabiti na kuona kwamba wafanyikazi wao wameweza kuangaliwa na kukingwa na virusi hivi, la sivyo wataambia wale wafanyikazi wao wasitishe kwenda kazini mpaka mikakati ile imeweza kuwekwa. Kwa hivyo najiunga naye katibu wa chama hichi atueleze tu kwa makataa hayo yasipofanyika hizo siku 3, je, wana mipangilio ipi ili kuona kwamba wafanyikazi wale wa bandari wameweza kusaidika vilivyo? Karibu sana Bwana Sang, tueleze tu ni yapi ambayo yanajiri katika bandari ya Mombasa.
Asante sana. Nafikiri kama tulivyosema hapo awali ni kwamba mambo matatu hayajatimizwa na management wa Kenya Ports Authority, na tumetoa makataa ya siku 3 ya kwamba ikiwa Kenya Ports Authority hawajatimiza haya yote, then hatutaona sababu ya kuendelea na kufanya kazi. Tutawauliza wafanyikazi wetu wote ambao ni members wa Dock Workers Union waachane na kazi ya Kenya Ports Authority. Si mpango yetu, hatungetaka kufanya hivyo kwa sababu sisi ni essential service, lakini ikiwa management watalegea, including the county government, hawatafuatilia jambo hili, then hatutakuwa na budi ya kuweza kuachana na kazi. Kwa hivyo tunataka kuuliza serikali kuu kupitia wizara wa afya, kupitia regional coordinator, commissioner na wale wengine ambao wanahusika waweze kuhimizia Kenya Ports Authority waweze kutekeleza yale mapendekezo yote ambayo tumepeana. One of the pendekezo ambayo tumepeana ni kwamba hapa mlangoni hatungetaka tena watu waendelee na kushikashika hiyo mlango ya kusungushwa. Tunataka hiyo mlango iwe wazi so that watu wakiingia ndani wanaonyesha port pass wakiingia. Tunataka pia ile mambo ya clocking in a centralized place iwe decentralized. Tuwe na karibu eneo 100. Kila wafanyikazi waende kwa supervisor yao, warekodi ya kwamba wameingia kazini, wamefanya kazi na wanatoka kazini. Hiyo yote ni mapendekezo ambayo ni njia mbadala ya kuweza kuepusha mfanyikazi kwa kutokana na hili jangwa. Kama mnavyojua, karibu 30% ya wale ambao wameambukizwa kwenye eneo hili la Mombasa County, 30% ni wale wafanyikazi wa port. na hilo ni jambo ambalo ni inashtua sana, na tungetaka situation where tukikosa kuchukua haya mapendekezo I mean it is very possible kuona watu 1,000 wao wameambukizwa from the port alone, na hilo ni jambo ambalo ni hatari, hatungetaka kusikia tukifikia jambo hilo. So kila yule anahusika tunataka watilie maanani sana haya mapendekezo yote. Lile jambo la James Oyugi ambao alisigwa ni kama kutupwa, sisi kama chama cha makuli tumechukua hatua. We have sued the government of Siaya County Government na ile facility ambao walihusika, ile naitwa ile naitwaje, matibabu. Tumesuu na tumesema kwamba tunawapeleka kotini anytime kuanzia kesho, kwa sababu walifanya kitendo ambao ni kinyume na sheria. Mtu aliyekufa anastahili kupewa dignity. Hiyo is taken care of by the constitution of this country. Asante.
Kufikia sasa kile kifo cha James Oyugi kimeweza kuadhiri wafanyikazi wangapi na wangapi ambao wamelazimishwa kwenda karantini?
Wale ambao wamelazimishwa sasa kwenda karantini ni karibu watu 40, estimate ni watu 45, kwa sababu inahusisha ofisi 3 na kila ofisi ambapo wamepatikana mtu wamegarantine watu tuseme 15, between 13 and 15 and 17. Kwa hivyo is about an estimate of about 45 persons ambao wametengwa hadi hivi sasa. Lile jambo pia la feri, tulizungumzia jambo la feri kwamba serikali na management wa Kenya Ferry Services wakijumuika na Kenya Ports Authority waweze kutupatia priority kama wale wafanyikazi wengine. Tunaona kwamba sisi tunabaguliwa tukifuka kwenda ngambo ile au kuingia kazini, hata ingawa sisi tumekuwa classified kama essential service provider. So tunataka tupewe service kama wale watu wengine. Every essential service provider, ikiwa ni Kenya Ports Authority, iwe ni county government, tupewe nafasi sawa. Hivi sasa tumetengwa au tumekuwa discriminated against. Hilo ni jambo ambalo inahuzunisha sana, despite of the fact that ile kazi ambayo tunafanya kwa Wakenya ni kazi ya muhimu sana.
Bwana Sang, pia tunaona kwamba kuna hospitali pale bandari ya Mombasa, na pia tunaona kwamba wagonjwa wakitatizika pale ndani ya bandari wanaelekea pale. Je, kuna visa vyovyote ambavyo vimeweza kuripotiwa pale hospitalini na kwenda mbele? Je, mikakati pia mmeenda kuona kama imewekwa ili kuona kama wagonjwa wote ambao watafika mahali pale wanaweza kusaidika?
In fact, issue ya bandari hospitali ni changamoto kubwa sana. Tulipata report in the morning ya kwamba wale wahudumu wa bandari, wale nurses and the clinical officers pamoja na madaktari, kuna wengine ambao wametengwa kwa sababu ya hili jambo. Na sasa wale wachache ambao wamebaki, kwa sababu tumefunga, one of the clinics has been closed. Sasa imebaki moja ambao wanashare na familia zao. So ile msongamano pia, if we are not very careful, inaweza kuwa another source of spreading the disease, the pandemic disease.
Ukiangalia kama haya mapendekezo yenu, tuseme kama uongozi hautatilia maanani, tunasema kwamba je, mngeona serikali ingesitisha ile mizigo kuja ama mizigo iendelee, lakini nyinyi hamtaenda kazini?
It is inevitable ya kwamba mizigo lazima sije. But we are only tunahimizia serikali ya kwamba wasituweke in a situation where tutakataa kufanya kazi. Kwa sababu we cannot afford to risk to be exposed, na tunakuwa exposed kwa sababu mtu amekataa kufanya kazi yake. So we are saying we are ready to work, but we must be put in a condition which is quite conducive, to us working without much risk. We want the risk to be reduced to almost decimal, to almost zero. So nothing much has been done in as far as the reduction of the risk is concerned, and that is where our concern is. So we are saying hatukatai kazi, but kama itabidi kuachana na kazi kwa sababu ya kuhofia maisha yetu, then we have no choice. But we are hoping that the government will come and sort out the mess within the shortest time possible. 2 days, 3 days is quite enough. We have given them enough time to be able to sort out those issues. These are not big issues. These are issues which can be sorted out within an hour. Yes.
Asante Sana Bwana Sang, huyo alikuwa ni katibu mkuu wa chama hichi, ambapo anasema kwamba wafanyikazi wengi ambao maambukizi mengi ambao yamefanyika hapa katika kaunti ya Mombasa yametokana na wafanyikazi wa bandari, na wanasema kama mikakati haitawekwa, basi bandari wafanyikazi wengi ndio watakuwa chanzo cha wakaaji wengi hapa katika kaunti ya Mombasa kuambukizwa na virusi hivyo vya COVID-19, ambavyo kwa sasa watu wengi wameweza kuathirika na mikakati serikali ambayo imeweza kuweka. Naam, tutazidi tu kupiga gumzo na kuangalia tu kaunti ya Mombasa inaendeleaje. Tunaarifiwa kwamba kuna polisi wameweza kushika waendeshaji wa tuktuk eneo la Nyali Bridge, ambao kivukio cha Nyali, ambapo wameweza kukiuka sheria tangia agizo hili la Rais Uhuru Kenyatta liweze kuwekwa. Tuktuk hizo hazijaweza kuweka mikakati katika tuktuk zao ili kuona kwamba maabiria ambao wanabodi zile tuktuk wameweza kuweza kujikinga na virusi hivi. Kwa hivyo tutakuwa tunatembelea tu vituo mbalimbali ili kuona kwamba je, watu wa tuktuk wanaweza kuangalia lile agizo ama la. Kwa hivyo tutazidi tu kujuza mengi kutoka kaunti ya Mombasa, lakini kwa sasa na kurudisha kwako Timothy Kipnusu ukiwa studioni.
Naam, Kontu Johnny Karisa, mtazamaji huyo ni mwanahabari wetu ambaye anakujia moja kwa moja kutoka kwenye gatuzi la Mombasa, akizungumza na baadhi ya wafanyikazi wa bandari ya Mombasa wakiwasilisha lalama zao kuhusiana na masuala kadha wa kadha, wakiweka bayana kwamba bandari ya Mombasa ndio inakabiliwa na hatari ya maambukizi, akiweka bayana kwamba 30% ya visa vya maambukizi inatoka kwenye bandari ya Mombasa. Kwa hivyo wametoa tahadhari, wametoa makataa ya siku 3 kwa serikali kuweza kuhakikisha kwamba wanaangazia vigezo ambavyo tayari wameviweka, na bila shaka mwanahabari wetu Johnny Karisa atakuwa anatufahamisha ustaha wa ufasaha wa taarifa hiyo hapo baadaye. Na sasa tunarejea tena hapa studioni, kama nilivyokuwa nimedokeza, tunazungumzia hali halisi hapa nchini kufuatia chamko la gonjwa la corona, na nimekuwa nikizungumza na katibu mkuu wa chama cha Third Way Alliance Fredrick Okango, na alipokuwa akizungumza Johnny Karisa vile akajaja studioni Kikechi ambaye bila shaka Kikechi Kombo ambaye ni mwandishi wa vitabu. Vile tuzungumzie athari za corona katika sekta ya elimu. Karibu sana Kikechi kwa mahojiano hapa kwenye Tamrini.
Naam, nashukuru bingwa.
Pengine kabla niweze kumpa fursa Okango, athari za gonjwa hili katika sekta ya elimu, na pengine mtazamo wako kuhusiana na jinsi serikali imeweza kudhibiti hali kuhakikisha kwamba wanafunzi kote nchini angalau wanapata wasaa wa kuendeleza masomo yao kupitia teknolojia ya sasa.
Naam, nashukuru. Upata kwamba sisi kama waandishi upata kwamba wa vitabu, na upata kwamba serikali ndio imefanya swala nzuri ambapo imeangazia kwamba wanafunzi waweze kusoma kupitia kwa nyenzo mbalimbali. Upata kwamba kuna masuala ya redio, kuna masuala vile vile ya televisheni, na upata kwamba nampa kwamba mkono wa tahania shirika hili la KBC, ambapo upata kwamba limechangia pakubwa katika harakati za kuwaelekeza wanafunzi na upata kwamba wanapokuwa pale nyumbani pamoja na walimu, na kwamba ni swala ambalo sasa lazima liweze kupigia mpato kwamba tunapoendelea mbele sasa upata kwamba sasa swala lenyewe litabadilika, kwa sababu upata kwamba wanafunzi sasa wanarejelea nini? Wanarejelea swala la kutumia nyenzo mbalimbali za mitandao na kadhalika. Kwa hivyo upata kwamba hata sekta ya elimu yenyewe sasa kwamba inapaswa sasa ibadilike, kwa sababu upata kwamba wanafunzi wanatumia ile labda Zoom, sasa wanatumia ile Skype kuweza kuwasiliana na walimu wao, wanafunzi wenyewe kwa wenyewe wanapowasiliana kwa masuala ya mijadala, na sasa kwamba swala hili linaenda kubadilia sasa mtazamo hasa wetu wenyewe, vipi tutatumia vipi sasa tuweze kubadilisha zile nyenzo sasa za kutumia katika swala la elimu, na kwamba vifaa ndio vimechangia pakubwa hususan wakati huu ambapo wanafunzi wapo nyumbani na wanatimiza yale malengo ya serikali ambayo imeweka.
Bila shaka pengine Okango vile mtazamo wako kuhusiana na swala hili, kabla pengine tuzamie kwa kiduchu masuala ya siasa na masuala ya hudumu wa afya, mzozo ambao umekuwa ukishuhudiwa kati ya tume ya kutathmini mishahara SRC na vile baadhi ya magavana hapa nchini. Zungumzia swala hili.
Pengine kabla nikujibu, ningependa tu kuchangia kidogo tu kuhusu masuala ya elimu, kwa sababu tumeona kwa sasa wanafunzi wako nyumbani na serikali inaomba kwamba waendelee kujifunza kupitia pengine runinga, kupitia mitandao. Ni nafasi nzuri sana kwa serikali kuhakikisha kwamba kila mwanafunzi anapokuwa anaweza kuipata yale masomo kwa uwezo wake, kwa sababu unaona katika kule county au mashinani kuna watu wengi sana. Baadhi ya watu hao wanafunzi bado hawawezi kupata nafasi hiyo katika mitandao. Pili, wakati huu sio wakati wa vitisho. Nimeona wafanyikazi wa docs pale wanapeana vitisho. Nilipoingia nimeona pia wale wasimamizi au viongozi wa vyama vya wafanyikazi wanapeana vitisho. Sasa hivi ni wakati wa kufanya kazi pamoja, kujumuika ili tupigane na janga la corona. Lakini nikirudia swali lako, katika nyanja ya kisiasa imeathirika mno, jinsi nilivyokuwa nasema mwanzo. Na uliniuliza kwamba wanasiasa wamefanya mambo yapi kuhakikisha kwamba watu wao au wa Kenya wako na nafasi nzuri ya kujikinga. Nimeona baadhi ya wanasiasa wamejaribu, na nilikuwa nakupatia mfano wa gavana wa Mombasa ambaye ameweka mikakati kabambe kuhakikisha kwamba watu wake wa Mombasa, wakaaji wa Mombasa wasije wakaambukizwa virusi hivi. Na pia nimeona yule gavana wa Kakamega Oparanya pia amejaribu, lakini uko na baadhi yao wakati janga hili lilitoka, Timothy, walizama, wakaja wakajitokeza baadaye na vile vitu vya kuosha mikono, wanabandika picha zao. Inamaanisha wanatumia nafasi hii ambapo Wakenya wanateseka kama nafasi ya kujitafutia maarufu. Mimi nawaonya, kwa sababu sasa hivi sio wakati wa kujitafutia maarufu. Sasa hivi jinsi Rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta alivyosema, tuungane mikono sisi wote. Haijalishi wewe ni wa chama ipi, haijalishi wewe ni wa dini ipi. Tuje pamoja tuhakikishe kwamba Wakenya wamevuka ng'ambo ile. Umeona kabla Mutahi Kagwe, waziri ambaye amejitokeza waziwazi kuaminika na kufanya kazi yake kwa ujasiri sana, kwa sababu kama kuna jambo ambalo linakera wa Kenya ni jambo ambalo kuambia ukweli. Ashatuambia ukweli, tujitayarishe. Huenda mambo haya tusipojichunga, kwa sababu ukizunguka Kenya hii, nilipokuwa nakuja hapa ni unaona wale waendeshaji bodaboda bado wanabeba watu wawili. Wale wanakaa katika vikundi, ile kutokaribiana ya mita 1.5 hawatii vile maagizo, hawatii karaboi, tunahitaji mask, wajua, barakoa hawavai bana. Kwa hivyo inamaanisha Wakenya bado wako mbali sana, wanapuuza. Na mimi kama mwanasiasa,
shikilia hapo Bwana Kango, tukiwa kwenye swala la elimu pengine Kikechi, kwa sasa tunatoa wito kwamba wazazi waweze kuwaelekeza wana wao ili waweze kufuatilia vile serikali imeweka kwamba waweze kutizama televisheni, wasikize redio, mikakati ya kuhakikisha kwamba hawasaliku wazuzu hapo nyumbani. Na wewe ni mwandishi wa vitabu, pengine kama waandishi wa vitabu umeweka mikakati ipi kuhakikisha kwamba vile vitabu vile ambavyo vinapatikana humu nchini vinaweza kusambazwa kwa wanafunzi, ili kwamba wakati ambapo wako pale nyumbani baada ya pengine kutizama televisheni na kusikiza redio, masuala ambayo yanatukia kuhusiana na elimu, nyie kama waandishi wa vitabu vile vitabu vinakuwa vya manufaa kwa wanafunzi?
Ni kweli. Na kwamba tunapoandika hivi vitabu hapa kwamba huwa tunazingatia syllabus. Na kwamba syllabus hii ndio inaitupa mwelekeo wa kuweza kuandika. Na kwamba tunapoandika tunazingatia yale yote ambayo yamerejelewa kwenye syllabus. Na kama mwanafunzi anaposoma yanampa manufaa makubwa sana. Na kwa hivyo kwamba mwanafunzi anaponunua hivi vitabu wapata kwamba yale ambayo amejifunza pale na yale ambayo amejifunza pale shuleni, kwamba wanafunzi hawa tayari kwamba wamezingatia syllabus hapo kwa hadi ambapo kwa ile madarasa ambayo wamefikia. Ule wa kidato cha 4 amezingatia syllabus ya kidato cha kwanza hadi cha 3, wa darasa la 8 amezingatia ile syllabus ya darasa la kwanza hadi darasa la 8. Kwa hiyo kwamba vitabu hivi hususan vya kiada tayari vimekidha yale mahitaji yote ambayo tumeweka pale ndani. Na kwamba kuna wale huwa tunaandikia vitabu hivi, tunaandikia matiba. Na hizi matiba ndizo zinafanya namna gani? Zinasambaza hivi vitabu sa injini. Na kwamba matiba yote hapa injini yana hivi vitabu na kwamba wanapata. Kwa hivyo yale ambayo wanazingatia pale labda kwenye redio, pale ambapo wamezingatia kwenye shule moja kwa moja huwa wameyapata, na kwamba wanaporejelea hivi vitabu pia vinaelekea zaidi kuweza kuelewa na kudurusu. Vile vile katika vitabu hivi pana mazoezi mengi ajabu ambayo tumeweka pale ndani, na kwamba yanawafaa katika harakati za kuturuhusu, hususan wanapotumia hizi nyenzo ambazo pia serikali imeweka katika mikakati yake.
Shukrani Kikechi. Naarifiwa kwa sasa mtazamaji, kidogo tupate taswira hali ilivyo katika gatuzi la Kisumu kuhusiana na kupambana na gonjwa hili la corona, na naarifiwa mwanahabari wetu Simon Ochola amekuwa akiangazia masuala kadha wa kadha, taswira ya hali ilivyo. Simon Ochola, tueleze hali ilivyo kuhusiana na visa vya maambukizi. Wa Kenya wanachukua tahadhari kwenye gatuzi la Kisumu ikizingatiwa kwamba kwa tayari waziri amedokeza kwamba visa hivi vimeanza kusambaa hadi kwenye kaunti za mashinani. Achola, usukani ni wako.
Standby, sauti kwa sawa.
Naam, Simon Achola bado hajakuwa tayari kutufahamisha jinsi ilivyo, lakini kwa sasa namuona pale ameshikilia mikrofoni tayari kuweza kuzungumza nasi. Simon Achola, hebu tupe taswira kamili ya hali ilivyo kwenye gatuzi la Kisumu. Bado ananyeanyea hapo kidogo, tutakuwa na rejea kwake kwa muda usiokuwa mrefu atufahamishe hali ilivyo kwenye gatuzi la Kisumu. Pengine Okango, kuhusiana na swala hili la elimu kwa kiduchu, mtazamo wa wengi kuhusiana na Wizara ya Elimu jinsi inavyoweka mikakati. Hapo jana baadhi waziri wa elimu Profesa George Magoha alizungumzia hali halisi kuhusiana na elimu na akasema kwamba hatuwezi kuweka maisha ya watoto hatarini kwa sababu ya masuala kama haya. Na kwa mtazamo wako unasema nini?
Nakubaliana na Profesa Magoha kwa sababu baadhi ya wazazi wanauliza watoto watarudi shule lini. Na wakati ambapo tunakuwa na janga kama hili, la muhimu ni kuhakikisha kwamba tumelimaliza hili janga. Sio watoto kurudi shule, kwa sababu watoto watakuwepo, Mungu atawalinda, watarudi shule hata baadaye. Na pia kahakikishia wananchi au wazazi kwamba hawana nia yote ya kuahirisha mtihani, kwa sababu bado nafasi ipo. Inamaanisha serikali inajipiga vita na janga hili. Na mimi ningependa kuomba wananchi, mara nyingi umesikia wananchi wanalalamika kwamba serikali haijafanya ya kutosha kuhakikisha kwamba wamekingwa. Sasa hivi tunapozungumza, umeona mwenzako akiwa pale Kisumu, ulivyoona wale watu walipokaa. Mimi nakuuliza Timothy, ile amri ya mita 1.5 haijatimizwa pale. Bado watu wanadhania kwamba hili janga ni la kuzungumza tu. Hili janga ni ya majaribio. Sio majaribio, ni halali. Na ndio maana unaona watu wanaendelea na maisha yao kama kawaida, hasa katika county kule mashinani. Na ndio maana nimesema wale ambao watasaidia Kenya hii leo kuhakikisha kwamba watu wa mashinani wameshikwa zaidi ni wanasiasa, kwa sababu hao ndio wanazungumza kule, badala ya kutoka na kubandika mapicha katika vile vifaa vya kusaidia wananchi kujikinga. Inafaa waambie, wahakikishe kwamba wametii ile amri ya serikali, kukaa mbali, kuosha mikono, kutosalimiana na kadhalika, kwa sababu wakati janga hili litatupiga, watu ambao wataathirika zaidi ni watu wa chini mashinani, ambao hawawezi kupata huduma ya haraka, hasa katika matibabu. Na vile vile katika masomo, wajua, nitarudia, nimeona waandishi wa vitabu kama mwenzangu hapa wamefanya kazi nzuri, serikali imefanya kazi nzuri, lakini kuna sehemu mbalimbali humu nchini ambapo wanafunzi sasa hivi hawawezi pata nafasi kuhakikisha kwamba wamesoma kupitia teknolojia. Haiwezekani. Inamaanisha wale watoto watapoenda katika mitihani na wenzao ambao wako na nafasi ya kusoma, hawatafanya vile, hawatakuwa katika nafasi sawa. Ushaona? Kwa hivyo mimi ningependa kuomba serikali sasa hivi, wanapoangazia hasa kukinga wananchi, waangazie pia masomo, wanafunzi wote wapate nafasi sawa. Kama inawezekana, jinsi wanavyopeleka hivi vifaa vya kujikinga, wanapeleka hivi vifaa vya kuosha mikono, basi yale nakala za kuhakikisha kwamba watoto wamejitayarisha kuhusiana na mitihani pia yapelekwe katika maeneo ambayo watoto hawezi kutumia teknolojia, kuhakikisha kwamba wamejitayarisha vilivyo kwa mtihani ambao utakuja, kwa sababu mtihani utakuja.
Na bila shaka. Na kwa mtazamo wako pengine kuhusiana na swala hili, na ukitizama vile vile waziri wa teknolojia ya habari na mawasiliano Joe Mushiru alizungumzia kuhusiana na jinsi watakavyoweka mikakati kuhakikisha kwamba masomo yanawasilishwa kwa wanafunzi kupitia teknolojia ya kisasa, ile mazungumzo ambayo wengi wamekuwa wakifanya kwa sasa kufanikisha swala hili. Vile zungumzia swala hilo na wazo lake Okango kuhusiana na wale ambao kidogo hawezi kupata teknolojia ya sasa.
Na kwamba unajua serikali inapoanza jambo fulani huwa imefanya utafiti wa kutosha. Na ndipo wapata kwamba hawa wanafunzi wapata kwamba wanasema vile yale masomo wanavyowasilisha. Wanawasilisha katika kupitia kwa njia za redio na televisheni pia yepo. Na kwamba katika unapokwenda katika vijitongoji vyote hapa nchini Kenya, popote tulipo kwamba huwezi kosa kifaa hiki cha redio. Hata siku hizo wanatumia rununu pale kwenye redio. Kwa hivyo wanafunzi wote wanapata yale mafunzo wanayopata kwa njia inayostahili. Halafu vile vile tunapoangalia serikali siku hizi kwamba inatoa vitabu. Na kwamba vitabu hivi kwamba serikali ndio inanunua kwa shule. Kwa hivyo watoto walipokuwa nyumbani, watu wengine walipewa hivi vitabu ambavyo wanavitumia pale nyumbani. Na kwamba kila mwanafunzi, hata yule mzazi ambaye hangeweza kununua, aliweza kupata kile kitabu. Na vile vile wanapokuwa kuangalia swala la mtihani, walipoambia wanafunzi hamna haja ya kuwa na wasiwasi. Kwa sababu pongezi, kwa sababu pata kwamba anajua kwamba silabasi tayari imefanywa. Na kwamba mtihani unatungwa kufikia penye silabasi imefikia. Huwezi kutunga pale ambayo wanafunzi hawajafunzwa. Kwa hivyo pata kwamba wanafunzi wa kidato cha 4 tayari wamefunzwa mitihani kwa takriban miaka 14. Kwa hivyo wana nafasi kubwa sana ya kutunga. Na unapoangalia asilimia ambayo huwa inatungwa labda kwa darasa la 8 na kwa kidato cha 4, huwa labda ni asilimia 20. Na kwamba sehemu hiyo tunaweza kusema labda iwekwe nje, alafu sehemu nyingine asilimia 85 iweze kutungwa na wanafunzi wataweza kufanya mtihani wao. Kwa hivyo sioni kama kuna wasiwasi yote.
Kuna wasiwasi.
Naarifa muda umetamatika. Pengine kwa Okango wa dakika moja kuhusiana na swala hili na kidogo mtafaruku ambao umekishuhudiwa kati ya tume ya kutathmini mishahara SRC na vile vile baraza la magavana, baadhi ya vyama vya wafanyikazi wamekuwa kizungumzia swala hili kwamba je, tume ya SRC iko sawa kuweza kukataa ile pendekezo ya baadhi ya magavana kama vile gavana wa gatuzi la Machakos kuhusiana na swala hili?
Timothy, pengine nitawapa wazo. Tume ya kutathmini mishahara ya wafanyikazi wa umma SRC ni tume ya kikatiba ambacho kiliundwa katika kipengele cha 230. Na kazi yake mojawapo ni kuhakikisha kwamba yale mishahara na marupurupu ambayo wanapewa wafanyikazi wa umma, hao ndio wanatathmini. Kisha wanaangalia kwamba yale mishahara au ile mishahara iko katika kiwango cha kustahimili. Maanake inaweza kuwa ni mingi ikosekane kiuchumi. Unajua? Kisha kuhakikisha kwamba wale wafanyikazi wako na ufaafu unaofaa. Kwa hivyo tunapozungumza sasa hivi wafanyikazi wa afya, wale wahudumu wa afya ni wafanyikazi wa umma. Basi vile vile wale ambao wanafaa washughulikie mishahara yao na marupurupu yao ni tume ya kutathmini mishahara. Pili, katika katiba kipengele cha 3 pia inasema kwamba kila Mkenya ako na jukumu ya kuitetea na kuilinda katiba. Ikiwa katiba ndio ishasema SRC ndio ina kazi hizi, jameni, wale magavana wanajipendekeza nini na wanajitafutia umaarufu nini? La muhimu wafanye hivi, washirikiane na serikali kuu, washirikiane na tume ya kutathmini mishahara SRC. Basi kwa sababu tunaelewa kwa sasa hivi wale wafanyikazi wa umma wanafaa wapewe motisha. Na motisha sio pesa peke yake, motisha pia vifaa vya kufanya kazi.
Asante. Neno lako la mwisho Kikechi, mustakabali wa masuala ya elimu hapa nchini kwa sekunde 30.
Naona kwamba kila kitu iko shwari, wanafunzi wasiwe na wasiwasi, waendelee kudurusu na waweze kuelekezwa, na pia pongezi kwa serikali kuweza kuendeleza kuwaelimisha wanafunzi kupitia nyenzo mbalimbali ambazo imependekezwa. Mimi ningependa kuacha na msemo usemao atafutaye hachoki na kichokesha pata inshallah.
Bila shaka asante sana kwa kuweza kujinafasi. Muda ndio umetupa kisogo, masuala ni mengi ya kuzungumzia. Nimekuwa sema naye Kikechi Komba ambaye ni mwandishi wa vitabu, hali kadhalika Frederick Okango ambaye ni katibu wa chama cha Third Way Alliance. Na kwa wale wote ambao wameweza kufanikisha Tamrini, nasema asante sana kwa kutizama. Naitwa Timothy Kipnusu, tukutane tena hapo kesho majaliwa yake Mwenyezi Mungu. Kwaheri.
Inshallah.
Welcome, viewer. I'm Pastor Lucas Otwera of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, based here in Nairobi. It's a privilege and also